Success in life comes when you simply refuse to give up. On a mission so strong that obstacles like failure and loss only act as motivation. I mean, like, no one has the power to shatter your dreams unless you give something's telling me to stop. I never do that in the name of love until I've given it my all and it just ain't enough. See, even if it's getting realer than they say it was, straighten up. Who's afraid of what? Player, get involved. Nah, you work hard till you're better off. 24/7, 365, never off. Look at me, I'm nocturnal, I don't sleep. My eyes heavy bags and crow's feet, but I won't be stopped. I go from tragedy to majesty. The victory has been woven into my tapestry. My adversaries not cut from the same flag as me. That's why the champion's gonna be who it has to be. This ain't the type of opportunity that just appears. I made it here because I shed blood, sweat, and tears. To get the title I forever have my sights on. This is where I become an American icon. Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. Listen, forward motion never fail. I learned to hustle is part of a cautionary tale. Hard work is something I know very well. A lesson and a blessing out of each and every L. I ball. I fell in love with the game and never looked back. My foundation and frame, they never shook that. Been trailblazing my name into the book that represent all the champs who had a chance and took that. And laser focus is the reoccurring theme, forever coming to me like a reoccurring dream. If we weren't kings, we'd probably be swimming upstream, trying to make the devil come clean for the umpteenth. You know me as the global dean from the noble team. So convene and the whole regime shall be overseen. I'm a pillar like a column in the pantheon. Competition, I can't see them, I'm champion. Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions.
But I'm gonna prove that I'm the champion. And if it's something I can't do, well then it can't be done. And I ain't saying I don't lose, or saying I'm the only one. But if it's either I or you, the best believe there's only gonna be one. A true champion.
Yeah. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions. If you a champion, show me you a champion. If you a champion, show me you a champion. Cause real champions move like champions. And real champions prove that they're champions.
One final race offers the ultimate challenge to the 8 looking to continue a championship run. The challenge of finding hope and vision in the middle of the desert mirage. We're live from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. We welcome you to the elimination race in the round of 10 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series and the penultimate race of Season 5. The 3 that will join Jaden Porter and Craig Lautenschlager will be decided tonight, and we welcome you to our coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV, where alongside Francisco Bacallao in the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, we have a lot to talk about going into this race at Phoenix. 2 drivers, Jaden Porter, Craig Lautenschlager, locked into the race at Homestead Miami Speedway, but the others are still yet to be decided. Tonight is going to be heavily fought. We want to make it to Homestead next week.
I'm very excited to be here, Kenneth, because we're racing to see who makes that championship 5. This is what everyone battles all season for, the opportunity to come to this race, to come out here to the desert and fight for the chance to be one of the 5 remaining drivers to try and fight for that championship. And it is a very close battle. The points battle is very close, and you look at it at face value, and of course, you know, it's a good battle there, but all it takes is someone outside to win the race, and it'll shake the standings up a lot. And we've seen that happen not just in this league before, but in real life many times. All somebody has to do that is in a must-win situation. If they win, it shakes up the points a whole lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in that point standings fine, and we'll get to it in a couple of moments. This is the Season 5 schedule for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, but really, we're not going to be talking about it 1 week from tonight. There's only 2 races left. This race from Phoenix, and then next week, we decide the champion at Homestead Miami on July 12th. I had my entire year mixed up, but July 12th, next Wednesday, Homestead Miami Speedway, our finale for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. And let's talk about the point standings going into this race. There are a lot of storylines to talk about. Jaden Porter, of course, the sophomore driver in his first full-time 4-Wide Racing Cup Series season, is advanced to his first Championship 5 appearance. Craig Lautenschlager, on the other hand, is into his second straight. He was there at the Championship 5 last season at Texas. He's going to be here once again at Homestead. Lawson Peel, defending champion, is not locked in. He's got 14 points, though, currently over the cut line. Eric Schaefer not far behind, 1 point at 13, Benson at 12, and then there's the gap, Francisco, for that cut line. 12 points between Benson, AJ Green, Brandon Banks, Lance Hill, Colin Forster, and Christopher Bishop, those last that are currently outside of the playoff fight. Forster and Bishop basically in must-wins for this race.
Absolutely, Kenneth. With that, how far back they are, they have to race. That's their only chance of making the championship 5. But also, if you were, for our viewers at home, if you look at the standings, you see 14, 13, 12 points. That's not a whole lot to begin with. That can change between stage points and a race result if it goes your way, but it's not exactly a favorable situation. You don't exactly want to be in this situation. However, as I mentioned, if someone like a Kyle Benson, an AJ Green, a Brandon Banks, or a Lance Hill were to win this race, automatically it turns into a battle of about 5 points separating 5 drivers, which makes this so interesting, Kenneth, because if somebody below the cut line is going to go out here and win this race, the rest of them have to basically be the best finishing driver to stand any chance of making it to the championship 5. We know that there's going to be stage points involved, but we assume most of those guys are going to be running up front, so it'll probably cancel each other out for the most part. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the points land at the end of the night. We might have to be coming down to league admin confirmation if there's any sort of close battles there, because that we've seen that happen before, and it's going to be necessary again if it stays the way it is.
Yeah, we're going to have an extended post-race show here on MaxSpeedTV. We'll get the official confirmation as soon as this race is over. But you looked at some of the stats here of Phoenix, but this is the first time that Phoenix has ever featured in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. There have been 4 different winners in 4-Wide Cup history here at this track in Avondale, Arizona. Most recently, the defending champion, Lawson Peel. So maybe could give you some storylines and trends as to what we might expect or what could follow at Homestead next week, given the playoff field. That is evident. So Francisco, Phoenix, of course, we usually see it rather earlier in the midway part of the season. This is the first time it's ever been this deep, let alone the penultimate race of the entire season to decide the drivers that are moving on. How important is this race and this track for the drivers needed to learn this configuration and trying to master it so they can be as fast as possible for tonight.
Is very important. We've seen these drivers attack this racetrack, especially in the night settings, very frequently, and it's usually been in the regular season. Of course, there's the added pressure now of having to perform in the playoffs to try and keep your playoff hopes alive. We've seen that be the case in real life for many years on end before Phoenix used to be the championship race, Kenneth. If you recall, it used to be the penultimate race, the one that set you up for Homestead, much like we got going on here this series. So it's going to be interesting to see what approach they take, how aggressive do they decide to be out on the racetrack. We know Phoenix, where it is geographically, it has a lot of tire wear naturally built onto the racetrack because of all the heat cycles the track goes through, the cool nights in the desert and the blazing hot heats in the summer. So tire wear is going to be crucial here. We know that they've updated the next-gen cars, one of the more recent season builds, to fit that short track package that they're running with even less downforce than the cars had. So that's going to make things very interesting. And of course, Kenneth, just that added factor of what are you willing to do to fight for a championship? Because, again, even though the championship is decided next week, we know that half of the field is going to be cut out of that playoff opportunity here tonight. And it's going to come down to who decides they're going to try and do something they may not do in the other couple of races that we run to try and make that championship fight.
It's an age-old question. Would you wreck your grandma for the championship, or in this case, a championship ticket at Homestead in Miami? Drivers are lined up behind the iRacing official pace car, which means it's our time to take you trackside and give you tonight's starting grid for the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoff event in the round of 10 here from Phoenix Raceway. It is Lawson Peel, the defending winner here, trying to lock himself in with a championship bid. He puts the fastest time in qualifying, 27.722. He's got Trackhouse Racing's Lance Hill hot on his heels on his outside. Row number 1 with a 27.757. Row number 2 features Craig Lautenslager. No worries into tonight's race. He's locked in after winning at Talladega 1 week ago. AJ Green in the 48 on his outside, 12 points beneath the top 5 in the standings. He's going to look to make something happen here from Phoenix. Adam Alashire returns to competition. He's got a Shane Van Gisbergen tribute paint scheme for Trackhouse Racing. He's inside the top 5. Colin Forrester, 42 points, or more than 40 points outside of the cut line. He's going to need basically a win to get into the next round. He rounds out the top 6. Top 7 and 8 include Eric Schaefer in the 3 car, Derek Running in the 84, and rounding out the top 10, Curtis Kelly in the 71, and Rodney Roberts in the 20.
Your 11th place starter is Jesse Freeze in that 00, alongside Christopher Bishop, who we mentioned is also in a must-win situation. Kyle Benson, who's in a points battle, is going to start a little bit deeper in the field. We'll see what he's able to do. And Brandon Banks, after that unfortunate situation at Talladega, has to win here tonight. We look at Jaden Porter, who has no worries once again. He is free to go to try and battle for a win alongside Cody Kibbett in the 16th position. And then you see Michael Newbraw, Cody Kinsey in the 9th row of this field. And Tyler Murray rounding out in the final row alongside the 53 of Kevin D'Elia. As we're getting ready to approach the green flag, Tyler Warner is the last car on the grid in the 21st place. Kenneth, it is the final race of this round. It is one race to go before Homestead. The green flag is out. Who's going to make the championship 5?
And sideways, Lance Hill in front of the field. He got hit by AJ Green, and he goes into the wall. Will the caution wave? Yes, it does. The lights are on, and that is dramatic. Before we cross the line for lap 1, Lance Hill and of others in trouble.
You saw it just slowly get away from the 1 car, and it was a slow drift before it eventually came around. I'm not sure if he had help. When we get a look here, we'll probably know for sure. But that could be a product of cold tires just kind of going off into the corner like that. They don't have as much grip. So we're going to look here and see the 1 car. You see the 48 behind. And no, he actually gets help from AJ Green. You see, again, just a slow drift. The car catches. He gets into the wall, gets hit again. Eric Schaefer with some contact there as well. I don't think that's going to warrant a fast repair for the 1 car, Kenneth, but that goes to show the emotions of racing. You start on the front row, barely missing out on pole if you're Lance Hill in a must-win situation, and then you get involved in this lap 1 incident. It's going to definitely be a setback for sure for the driver of the 1 car.
You look at Eric Schaefer, who's 13 points above the cut line. He gets into the wall on the inside after getting near the scuffle that started with Lance Hill in the one car. He got put sideways. There's the front end nose damage on the Reaper Speed Lab Chevrolet. As Eric Schaefer brings it down to pit road. Drama early. Lance Hill gets put to the rear of the field, basically dropping to 13th. And he's going to escape with minimal damage, but that is really tough. And that's going to move Adam Alishire to second, AJ Green to third, Colin Forrester, Craig Lounsloger to round out the rest of the top 5. And boy, that was sketchy. But Francisco, that's something that you'd come to expect here at a track like Phoenix, even before the reconfiguration where they moved that start-finish line to what is now the backstretch, but what used to be the front stretch. You still have in those set of corners, which is now turn 1 and 2, used to be 3 and 4. It's so sketchy. You got a lot of cars going in there, and especially on cold tires, it's so hard to navigate.
It's very hard to navigate, and you know, mixing up sometimes the turns and which is the front stretch and the back stretch, it happens to people. It makes me wonder, was that how it was with Darlington back in the day when they moved it over to what is now the front stretch? Because if you remember, that racetrack used to be backwards as well, and they did the same deal here. They put it, instead of the middle, you see it right there, it's in that short chute before the actual dog leg, which allows for everyone to move around after you get past start-finish line and fan out, go 4 or 5 wide in that dog leg before it funnels down towards turn 1 right here. So turn 1, if you look at it, and based on the track facts that you mentioned earlier in the pre-race, Kenneth, it's a lot flatter. You have a lot more area to kind of go up to that outside wall. You don't really want to, but it is an option if you must to be able to hold track position. You don't really see guys go down to the flat here, unlike in real life where you guys go like a lane or 2 below to be able to use it. And then 3 and 4, it's usually trying to get to the bottom of the racetrack. You might be able to make the second line work, but it's definitely trying to get to that yellow line on the bottom of the racetrack. Now, what is unique about Phoenix, Kenneth, you saw the pace car pull off turn 2. You have to wait all the way till just a little bit ahead of here before you get to the restart zone. There you see it in Geico in blue, and the field's getting ready to go. Lawson Peel with a great jump. You see the field kind of stacking up a little bit further behind. This is where they're going to fan out. You see AJ Green looking to the bottom. He's going to try and take the lead going into turn 1.
Using all the space in the dog leg. That's something that we'll be discussing all night long. You can make up a lot of ground down there, but over the run might just wear off their tires. For now, it seems to work. Car around in the back of the field. That's Jesse Preece. Caution is out again. Quickly, lap number 5. And the 00 of Preece, I believe, took it all the way to pit road. There he is, as he let the entire field go by. And this is a quick spin. I'm not sure whether there was a lot of damage assessed to Preece's car, but here's a look at it. Turns 1 and 2.
And he's actually pulled it into the garage, Kenneth, so it looks like the 00 is done for the night. We're going to get a look at it. And it might be a product of getting loose, and exactly that. Just kind of goes away from it in turn 2. Consider this, Kenneth. We did not run many laps that first run. Really, we got to turn 1, and then the similar situation gets to turn 1 again. So there's not really almost any heat in these tires. So it's just like the green flag once again. You see right here, just running. Try to hold it on the bottom, put the power down. There's just not enough banking to help the car keep it planted, and it just comes around on it. It doesn't really go fully around. So it's interesting that iRacing triggered the caution, but I guess the speed difference there was enough for the system to warrant the yellow flag. Warner goes it down pit road, and you know, I must say that is a fantastic paint, Kenneth, repping the Red Bull. But probably one that caught my eye is that throwback that Craig Lounsloger's running. You know, as a person aspiring to be in the aviation industry, Kenneth, this is one of my favorite paint schemes when guys pull out the aviation throwbacks, aviation dedication, and there you see the classic American Airlines chrome liveries that were retired back in 2014 when they merged with US Airways. And me personally, that's always been one of my favorite liveries. I had a paint kind of dedicated to that same plane as well. And here we see Craig Lounsloger, of course, running a scheme tributing to that classic paint of American Airlines.
Yeah, I knew you were going to point that out, 100%, but it is a gorgeous paint scheme. You can see it shining under the lights here at Phoenix Raceway. It looks really good. And the 13 going into tonight's race again. No worries from last week's race. Won Talladega in clutch fashion and is onwards to his second straight Championship 5 appearance, where he did the same thing, won his way into the championship race last season. at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and also a crazy ending to that race. And then, unfortunately, could not cap it off at Texas, but the 13 has another chance and goes into this race, much like Jaden Porter, without worry about what's going to happen tonight. Just looking to survive, and if they can get another win, then so be it. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace car. It's going to be Lawson Peel, AJ Green leading this one from the front row. Adam Alishire, Lounslugger in third and fourth. Kyle Benson to rack up the top 5. So Benson doing a great job of picking up position early in this race, despite the early yellows. So we'll see what he can do. He was one of the fastest drivers in practice. So it's now down to how it reflects into the race pace. It seems to be working so far. He's made some solid progress. We'll keep an eye on that Murray Beatty Motorsports number 10 Chevrolet. Pace car is down and going to work towards the turn 3 entrance off the back straightaway into the Geico restart zone. AJ Green had a look on the inside of Lawson Peel, getting into turns 1 and 2 by using the dog leg. He's got the outside though on this restart, so he's not going to have enough space. The 12 car launches up, green flag in the air, lap number 9.
And that's actually a very tough position to be in if you're AJ Green, Kenneth. Restarting on the outside of the leader when they go to the inside. It's tough to tell. You have to have your camera. If you have a button out, probably looking to the left, trying to listen and look to see any cues of the car trying to go. Sometimes you guess wrong, and if you do, you have to back off, and then the leader decides, yes, now I'll go, because he's off guard, and that's how you end up in a situation like Lawson Field where you get that big lead, but the driver on the outside just kind of guesses wrong, has to give you the break so you can be the first to go and get to the start-finish line, and that's how AJ Green now finds himself in second after being able to hold off Halish position. That's why if you restart behind the leader, you might be able to get just that little bit better of a run and try and attack towards turn 1. You can see the rear of his car, and it gives you a better indication.
That 48, great defense to hold off Adam Alishire. Meanwhile, we are almost 3 wide for position number 4. Kyle Benson was on the outside for a moment. Craig Lounslogger in the middle, and then this 99 car on the bottom. Colin Forrester, Francisco, who is forced into a very peculiar predicament, which is something that you don't necessarily see out of Forrester all that often, but because he did not show up earlier in this round, he is 48 points beneath the cut line, which is a basic must-win scenario heading into Phoenix. So Forrester's going to have to do all that he can to not only stay up here early, Francisco, and survive, but also make sure he is that driver to first cross the start-finish line at the end of the race. Craig Lounslugger with a slide job on Alishire in turns 1 and 2. They're 3 wide.
Great racing inside the top 5 here, and you see Forrester's trying to pick his battles. He knows that it's only lap 12, it's 150 laps. It doesn't matter if he finishes 4th or 3rd, he has to win the race. So you see Alishire very close to that left rear of Kyle Benson, but Benson does take the position. And if you're calling Forrester, Ken, as you mentioned, he missed a couple races, was not at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for that event, did show up for Talladega, and was involved in one of those last lap crashes that we saw. So a potential better result was taken away from the driver of the 99, but considering he didn't show up to the Charlotte Motor Speedway race, definitely put him into that must-win situation that you don't want to be in. You definitely want to avoid being in that situation, but I think if you're calling Forrester, Kenneth, we've seen him many times in many situations where he's risen up to the occasion, where he's had his back against the wall, and he's absolutely been able to go up there and take the win. We've seen him do it here before. He's won at Phoenix back in the Gen 6 days. He's capable of going for victory lane once again, and right now, like I said, with the chance to be able to make it to Homestead, he definitely wants to go up there and try and make it a second Phoenix win in this series, but right now he's having to hold off a Trackhouse car in the 91 of Adam Alishire, which you alluded to that paint scheme, Kenneth, is a tribute to Shane Van Gisbergen and that awesome win that he had at Chicago.
And the New Zealander, the multi-time champ in the V8 Supercars over in Australia, as he's sideways out of turn 2.
He gets turned.
He gets hit by Porter, now by Roberts and by Hill. That's a big stack up on the back straightaway. Caution is out, lap 15.
It's going to crucially involve Lance Hill, Kenneth. I don't think he took the fast repair on that first caution, but that was probably looked like a pretty decent enough hit to maybe warrant the fast repair. We'll get a look at that one car. If there's no suspension damage, he might have to, unfortunately, take some more. Oh, it looks like that left front might be a little bit hurt, but we'll see what he decides to do here under this caution flag. We'll get a look at it. Rodney Roberts was involved as well. He's taking it to the garage. He's out for the night. And we were talking about the 91 at the moment and this happened, and you see just gets loose and then gets help a little bit by the 28 quarter. Nothing the 28 can do there. Looks like the 91 was trying to put the power down, much like we saw Priest do, and it gets him sideways there off of turn 2, and unfortunately 28 doesn't really have anywhere to go, doesn't realize it soon enough, and just kind of gets into the back of the 91. And of course, being where they were on the racetrack, it kind of does create some havoc for the drivers trying to avoid. You see Schaefer trying to take avoiding action, and whew, that's a close call right there if you're Bishop.
He's one of those guys, by the way, much like Forster, who needs to win this race in order to advance to the next round. He has 52 points out of that championship fight as it stands, and that is a good step in order to stay alive here at Phoenix and try to avoid elimination outright. So here's a look from Lance Hill right behind Rodney Roberts, and you said it perfectly, Francisco. The 91 didn't get help from Porter until he was officially loose. It was not Porter's fault. 91 just lost it all by himself, and that 28 was just there for it. Rodney Roberts trying to avoid. He goes hard to the wall. That barely avoids Curtis Kelly. You see the damage assessed to Lance Hill. Doesn't look like totally damage on any side of the race car for the one, and it looks like he will be okay without using the fast repair. He does use it, however, so he is on pit road. He did get it, so he's got a clean Chevy Camaro that he's going to have to keep clean for the rest of the night, and that's going to drop him all the way to 11th on the racetrack. Not terrible, but again, Francisco, we mentioned the strategy of using a fast repair early when you get into trouble the first half of the race. We saw it last week at Talladega. Brandon Banks got into a crash early, had to use the fast repair, and it looked like everything was going to be fine until he got into a big crash late in the race. It took him out, and that's what put him in the scenario that he's in now underneath the cut line. So for Lance Hill, he's got to be really careful.
You read my mind with that example, Kenneth. We had just seen it a week ago with Brandon Banks having used that fast repair on the first caution of the race. And of course, he ran aggressively, was up front, and it looked like he was in position to win the race, but unfortunately got collected in one of those crashes inside of 10 to go, and that did him in, and that puts him in the position where he is. But Lance Hill knows after today, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you have to give it your all. You have to at least be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I gave it my best shot. And using that fast repair right now is probably how he feels is his best opportunity. Give himself a clean car, get back to the front, and avoid being in the middle of the pack where these troubles can happen. As the field now approaches the Geico restart zone, again, it's on the outside. It might get a little bit of a better launch this time. He's probably going to have to fend off Craig Launslager still, but definitely a better restart for the 48 of AJ Green compared to the last one, as it looks like Benson's going to go around the outside of Craig Launslager. Launslager loose through 1 and 2. He's going to invite Colin Forster to challenge for position as they go down the back straightaway. Benson with the run, trying to get up there and battle for second.
This 10 car has been pioneering the outside in turns 1 and 2, and it is working to a T. It's a masterful job to gain position on that restart. 14 is going to look to strike back here on the front straightaway. In the dog leg, it won't work. Everybody's single file for most of the top 10, but look at the 10 car way up on the racetrack. It's going to get his nose to the quarter panel of the 48 for a split second. It's not going to work out of the corner. It's a strategy that may be viable. 91 car is sideways again out of 2. He's going to save it and stack up the back half of the field.
It's going to spread them out a little bit, but we stay under the green flag, so that could help the back of the field. We're going to get a look at it and see what happened. You see right in front of them, side by side, Curtis Kelly, Brandon Banks, Lance Hill. And no, it looks like the 91, same problem he had. He gets loose, but this time he saves it, and unfortunately contact for the 16 of Tyler Murray kind of gets into the side of him instead of the quarter panel and kind of diverts himself into the wall unintentionally, and he gets into the inside wall, gets some damage there. But we stay under the green flag. AJ Green kind of maintaining at about 0.2 of a second behind your race leader, Kyle Benson, staying a little bit further behind. There's some grip out there on the outside wall on corner entry, Kenneth. If you do it just right, you can really hit a sweet spot, kind of diamond the exit, and give yourself a masterful run down the back straightaway. If you do it just right, you could put your nose down in there, make that driver in front of you have to leave you the space on corner entry so you can get that inside for this corner in 3 and 4, because 3 and 4, you have to be on the bottom.
Yeah, in 3 and 4, you can encounter a lot of dirty air, especially if you're that 48 of AJ Green. When you're stuck behind the leader and you're running the same line, that car is going to plow tight. It's going to go up to the outside wall, and you see why this 48 is moving out of line in turns 1 and 2. He wants to get the run on the 12. He's encountering all that dirty air in the wake of that Chevrolet in front of him. So he needs to do his best to deviate his line and gain that momentum, or get a better exit out of 4, which is what he just did. He's got the nose underneath the defending champion, but it's not going to be enough as Peel shuts the door and the top 5 have broken away.
It's incredible how much the car turns as soon as you get a dive of clean air. We saw the 12 miss the bottom. He misses the bottom again. Going to invite AJ Green to try and go to the inside again. Unable to get there. We'll see if he tries to put pressure on the 12. Peel does not bite. Green sends it to turn 3. He stays behind the 12. If you miss that bottom, Kenneth, and that car behind you is able to get the dose of clean air, it's almost like they get automatic grip from how much during the air they're having to battle. You see Green's looking to the inside. Again, trying to force the 12 car to think, do I give him the space to work on the bottom? I think if you're AJ Green, you're probably better off trying at least 1 or 2 laps on that outside in 1 and 2 to set yourself up for this corner. You clearly have some decent exits, but you have to try and work that outside. You can carry a lot of momentum running that outside line here as the yellow flag is now going to wave here on lap 25. Looks like an incident a little bit further back in the field. We'll get a look at it, and it involves the 33 of Tyler Warner. Looked possibly on his own. We'll get a replay of that soon here, Kenneth, but you know, just to finish what we were talking about there, if you try the outside in 1 and 2 good enough, you can really give yourself a solid run down the back straightaway, and it can make some passes. As you see Warner gets loose, and I'm not sure there was contact there with the 42 before that overcorrect. It looks like the 33 may have snapped it to the right at the same time the 42 just happened to be loose. I don't think Bishop really did anything here as he's just behind. Of course, let the 33 go. You see Warner gets loose, overcorrects it. 42 may have gotten into him just enough, but obviously nothing he could do at that point.
And a great job there of avoidance. That was Michael Newbraw in the 6, and I believe there was some minimal damage added on to that 42's machine. We talked about Bishop's amazing avoidance on one of the opening yellows. It looks like he did not escape this one without a piece of damage. So caution out again here. Lap number 27. Field still behind the number 12 of Lawson Peel, who did lead 84 of the 152 laps last time we were here. Remember, that was early in season number 4. That was February 9th of 2022, race number 2 of the season. Lawson Peel continues to lead more laps here in Avondale, Arizona. We're going to get some wave rounds here, and Field decides for pit road, but looks like the leaders are not going to do really much on the pit lane. They're going to stay out just to keep that track position. Now let's talk about the history, Francisco, of this Phoenix Raceway. I mean, the last 2 winners are 2 drivers that are in the playoffs. Peel, of course, in the 12, who you're looking at right now. Colin Forster, who you mentioned in the show, won this race with the Gen 6 cars. And then you look at Jonathan Warren and Scott Healy. You want to know one thing that's the common denominator around those 4 different winners here at Phoenix? 2 of them are series champions in the season they won Phoenix at. Scott Healy, that was his walk-off journey to a championship back in season number 2. And then Lawson Peel, last season in race number 2 with a win here at Phoenix, went on to win the title.
It lends itself to champions. There's certain racetracks that we see in all the series in motorsports where champions just prevail because of what is demanded of a racetrack. And we mentioned it a little bit at the top of the show. The tire wear here at Phoenix can be a lot because of the contrast in terms of the summer and the winters here in the desert. You have some really cool conditions here at night, like we have tonight. And then in the daylight, depending on what time of year you're looking at, like if you're there now in July, it's not exactly ideal to be out there in the desert in the daytime, but now that it's night, you can definitely be out there and kind of deal with it. It's probably a nice cool 70 or so degrees there, but you definitely don't want to be in the daylight where the air temperature is in the triple digits, let alone that track temperature.
You said 70 some degrees right now?
Probably.
Well, it's currently at 6:34, they're 3 hours behind, or is it 2 hours behind for mountain time?
I'm not sure, but I was assuming 9:30 p.m.
Well, nonetheless, you want to try to guess the temperature. It's not 70-something degrees, though.
It is probably not, because considering you did mention it was still daylight, so I'm going to guess it's probably close to 100.
It is 107 in Phoenix right now in real life. Now, in the sim, of course, we get the cooler temperatures, so if we were in the real-life broadcast booth in Phoenix and it was like this, we'd probably be okay and we'd have air conditioning. But for those that are in Phoenix right now, 107 out with the daylight still there. Sunset has not yet reached the Arizona landscape. That's tough. That's really hot in the middle of the summer, especially fresh off of July 4th, which was, according to some scientists, the hottest day of the year on Earth. So we'll get off of the climate change talk. Lawson, Peel, AJ Green, first and second, row number 1. They'll bring us to the green flag at lap number 30 of 150. Kyle Benson, Craig Lautenslager. Those two have been tussling for position for a while. We'll see if things settle out once again. Early jump by the 12. We're back under green. And here comes Kyle Benson. He's going to use the dogleg to get underneath AJ Green for turn 1.
He restarts on the bottom this time, having been in the third spot. Green will challenge into 1 and 2. Benson's going to roll the inside. He's not going to clear AJ Green. Green should get the momentum off the corner. That'll keep them battling for each other, and we know Peel wants to see this, considering AJ Green was on his tail that last run. Green on the outside in 3 and 4 should clear Benson off the corner. Benson's going to fight back, though. Again, we'll try to cut the dogleg, but Green barely gets the nose out in front and will seal off Kyle Benson's attacks. Colin Forster will move up to 4th. Lautenslager under pressure from who? Lance Hill trying to move up.
And Lance Hill reckon that he would try and move up to the field as soon as he could when we get a green flag run, just because of the damage that he picked up early in this race. Well, there he is, hunting on the 13 car. He went in for a stop, obviously, to get that fast repair. It was a 5.8 second stop, so he got some fuel in as well. Doesn't look like tires were applied on that Chevrolet Camaro, but he is making up time quickly. He's going to dive to the inside of the 13. We'll see if he has enough momentum to keep it going out of turn 2. Answer is going to be no. Washes up the track quite a bit. And in that last run, Francisco, we saw the top 5 break away by a decent amount. We saw everybody 6 on back. They could not hang with the guys up front. Could this now be a 6-car breakaway with the playoff competition that's leading this field?
Well, we know Hill was fast. He qualified outside the front row and by a couple of hundredths was missing out on the pole position. But look who's trying to join that fray up in the front. It's Brandon Banks, one of your playoff drivers. He's trying to join that battle of the playoff guys up in the front of the field. He moves his way up into 7th. They see a car around in the back. Couldn't exactly make out who it was, but we have a spinner at the very back of the field that's going to put us under the yellow flag once again. And it'll slow the pace down. And no real long runs here tonight, Kenneth. Your leaders have yet to come down pit road. And look, it involves Eric Schaefer, who is above the cut line. He's a pretty good margin above the cut line, but you can't really afford to have anything like this happen. It looks like he gets contact from the 16 possibly. There in the middle 3 and 4, they're in a pack racing each other. We'll get a look on board the Tyler Murray machine, but that you can't afford this if you're the 3 of Schaefer. Yes, you're in a good spot, but all it takes is someone outside winning and this being your outcome, and you could be eliminated.
Get it right there. Slight contact in turns 1 and 2, and Murray does a great job of saving the car. He brings it down pit road and makes pit road speed limit, so he avoids any penalties given to him. A nice avoidance there to not slam into those barrels, but like I said, for Eric Schaefer, that spells disaster. As a driver above the cut line, the last thing you want to have happen is this, and have your race turn sour in an instant. It pancakes it on the left side of the outside wall. Not sure how much damage it's going to do, and I believe it's not going to take Eric Schaefer out of this race for good, but he does bring his Chevrolet Camaro back into pit road, so we'll see just how much time he spends down there. But it is not good. And Francisco, I mean, here at Phoenix, track position is very important. But given that it's pretty hard to pass, I know the track temperatures are cool, so you do have more grip than, let's say, if it was 107 degrees like it is in real life. But nonetheless, I mean, you've got so much dirty air. The track is relatively flat. You don't have a lot of banking. And this track isn't necessarily multi-groove in the way that you would see it as in Homestead or, let's say, at Kansas or some other tracks. It's really hard to pass here. So for guys like Eric Schaefer, mistakes like this are costly.
It is. It's very hard to pass here, Kenneth. We've seen how some of the guys at the front of the field have struggled to make some quality passes. Of course, your best opportunity will be on restarts, which is how Benson has gotten the job done. But once you get past that second or third lap of a restart, it's very difficult. And a lot of your passes will be having to set up the passes in a couple laps before. You heard me mentioning trying to use that outside in 1 and 2. You can definitely do so. It's not going to help your tires, but if you go up there for a lap or two to try and build some momentum for the back straightaway, you can really roll that top well enough. You can try to do something in turns 3 and 4, but you need to do it just right, and you need to hope that the driver in front of you slips up enough. We've seen Peel make a couple of mistakes on the bottom where if the 48 had run the outside lane and really built that momentum up, he could have maybe made some moves. But you look at that in hindsight and say, well, I could have, would have, should have done that. but of course you have to live with your whatever you decide to do. And here we are on approaching lap 37. AJ Green still has to figure out a way to get past that 12. And what's going to be interesting here, Kenneth, if we do continue this rash of yellows like we've seen so far tonight, at what point do they decide to come down pit road? Because historically, when we've had these races where a lot of yellow flags are happening, usually if you pit, the earlier you pit to be able to make it, it gives you a better chance of winning the race because that means you stay out, the other guys come in, you get the track position. So if this stays that way, it's going to be interesting to see who decides to play that backwards game from the end of the race up until now. Of course, we still have multiple pit stops left to go in this race potentially, because I don't think a fuel tank here can take you in the entire thing. Not a whole tank, the 150. I do mean at least one stop is not enough. You have to stop at least twice. And of course, nobody has come in yet, but it should be expecting at least 2 stops from most of the field tonight. When you do them, it's going to matter whether we have a lot of cautions or whether we go green flag racing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Probably around 45 to 50. Maybe you see drivers considering to go down pit road further. But if we get a long green flag run right here, it could also shake things up based on the fuel strategy that these guys have been employing over this yellow-filled first half. Green flag back in the air, lap number 38. Once again, Kyle Benson darts towards the bottom of the dog leg. He'll try to dial up the inside on AJ Green and make this pass cleanly for that second place spot. 48's going to fight hard on the outside. They're going to bring Colin Forster. It's a 4-car train leading out of turn 2. They're still door-to-door for P2.
Almost contact between those two. Benson does not want to give up this track position. He wants to get up there and battle the 12 of Peel. He sees on the inside, dirty air from the 12, has no room from the driver of the 48 on the outside. They're going to almost make contact again in that dog leg. Going back to turn 1, AJ Green will back out of it and hand the position over to the driver of the 10. He's going to maybe cross over here in turn 2. Almost gets into the back of Benson. Benson will live to fight another day, so move him up now to P2 after that P13, I believe, starting position for him. And what a drive it's been up through the front of the field. He was one of the faster cars in practice, Kenneth. Of course, that's over 1 lap. We haven't really had a lot of long runs, so I don't think there's been much tire wear. But we'll see what he does now that he's behind Lawson Pugh. You see him moving up, trying to get away from that dirty air, trying to see if he can use that top side to gain that ground up on the back straightaway. And AJ Green has now moved up a little bit in 1 and 2, so we'll see if he decides to employ any strategies from the 10 car to try and help his case against the 12.
So far, the 10-car strategy seems to be working, and you pointed out something great.
Oh, he's got a big run.
Has been on the move since the drop of the green. He gets the outside on race leader Lawson Peel, the first lead change of the night. But can it last? The 10-car stays on the outside in turns 1 and 2. Lawson Peel maintained down there. AJ Green gives the 10 to help. Kyle Benson, new race leader from Phoenix.
It took him not too long after getting past AJ Green to employ that same strategy. And look, Green gets the outside of Peel now. It's all about running that outside lane effectively, especially in 1 and 2. If you can do that, Kenneth, you can set yourself up for some passes. Green now side by side with Peel has the preferred line at this end of the racetrack, so he should get the position here down the back straightaway. And if Forster's close enough, he's going to try and fill that gap before Peel can get there. But you see Peel's going to back out, accept 3rd place. So now Forster will have to try and make do with what he can. But Kyle Benson now to the front of the field, trying to see if he can lock himself into the championship 5, Kenneth. And what a season it's been for the driver of the 10. We've documented it a couple of times. Had that injury with his ACL midway through the season, had to sit out a couple of races, missed the playoffs initially, but Joe Sanchez forfeits his playoff spot. Who's the guy that happens to receive it? The 10 of Benson, being the first driver out. And he has absolutely taken that opportunity and flown with it. And he's trying to capitalize every single chance he gets. He's been in the championship 5 multiple times, has not been able to win the championship, Kenneth. And who would have thought him having had that injury, having missed the playoffs, would be sitting here with a chance to try and fight for a championship once again.
Absolutely remarkable. Kyle Benson this season is the perfect example of making the most out of the situation. He was not going to be in the playoffs, like you said. Joe Sanchez forfeits a spot. Kyle Benson is in. what does he do? He doesn't hang around. He doesn't try and be conservative in points race. He goes for the win, and when he does in the first round, he does get loose and turns one into.
Oh, he's in the wall!
Gets into the wall. That'll bring in AJ Green in the 48. Not sure if this is going to be a pass for the lead. I think Benson's going to be able to hold on to escapes narrowly with that mistake. Stay there in turns 3 and 4. AJ Green, though, right on the back bumper. But Benson came out swinging with a win at the Charlotte Roval, locked into this round. And what a round of 10 it's been for Benson. Came out with a good 6th place finish at Charlotte, then a 2nd place finish at Talladega. Now leading this race, he is saved by the caution flag, which is thrown for Lance Hill in the one machine. The troubles continue for the playoff driver.
Doesn't look to be much damage on that race car, so we'll see what happened. He's on his own. It looked like he lost some track position. He gets loose off the corner, and he does, and he backs it down, and then right there you see almost comes around. A little kiss to the wall, Kenneth. I think that car is A-okay, just kind of whips it around. That's why we're under the yellow flag. So good job in not really hitting anything too bad. Again, a little bit kiss to the inside wall, on board with him. And this has been the trouble spot for drivers all night. It's been turn 2 when you're exiting that far down the racetrack, and I can attest to that. It is very difficult to get the power down when you're that far low. There's just no grip. There's a little bit of dirt there. You see it kind of discolored. So there's not much grip down there. You're trying to really put the power down and taper off, but there's just no grip, and the rear tires will not grab, and that's how you end up in this situation. But look, pit stops are going on now. We'll see what the strategy calls are. I expect to see a lot of 4 tires, but there's a lot of time that can be gained and lost here in this curvature, Kenneth. We don't talk about it at almost any racetrack, but you can gain or lose a lot of time by how much you're being aggressive in cutting, because I don't believe there's any rules against not being against the very outside. So that means it is fair game for you to gain or lose time right there, just going in and out of the box.
Here's the entire field. Remember, Benson came in first. Will he escape in the same place? The answer is yes. And Lawson Peel is going to be in a close fight for that 2nd place spot, but he's going to win over Colin Forrester and AJ Green, who are going to be right behind him. Now, there are drivers who have stayed out, led by Curtis Kelly in the 71, Ronnie Roberts, Christopher Bishop. It looks like Lance Hill, but now Hill, he's going to be taken out of the equation. So it looks like it would just be top 3, all of them who pitted around 12 to 13 laps ago. They're going to be staying out. Everybody else, though, coming in. There's Tyler Warner in the 33, Lance Hill in the 1. They're going to get their respective stops. But Lawson Peel, 2nd to Kyle Benson, who's the winner off of the pit road sequence. And touching back on that incident with Lance Hill, I mean, it's going to be an overarching storyline throughout racing at Phoenix Raceway, shifting and the revs. These next-gen cars are sequential shifting machines with the transmission that was updated when this next-gen car came into service for the NASCAR Cup Series to replace the normal H-pattern 4-gear box that used to be in on all the cars for as long as I can remember in NASCAR history. But when you downshift here in Phoenix, because you have to, in turns 1 and 2, you're downshifting in a 4th, which means you're at the higher rev area of that 4th gear, which means rear tires more liable to spin. And then, like I said, Francisco, coupled with the fact that it's so hard to grab grip around that part of the track, you lose it instantly. And that's why we've seen a bulk of our cautions come from this place right after the Instacart sign.
And you know, Kenneth, a lot of that has to do because the higher revs kind of acts like a plant in the sense that the car will be a little bit stiffer, but it's on the razor's edge, meaning if it goes, it's going to go around. And if you're in 5th gear, it takes a little bit longer for the car to get up to speed. You might lose a little bit of time, but you don't have to worry about it being that much of a razor's edge. Of course, that's why we see guys do it. There's more speed to be found, but if you do it wrong or it's executed wrong, then you could find yourself in some trouble by having a loose race car. Because it makes sense if you think about it, Ken. It's true with most race cars and cars in general. The higher revs you run, the car will be a little bit more grippy, but if you go over that edge of grip, it's going to immediately come around. And especially with the aerodynamics of this race car, with the floor and all that sort of stuff, with race cars that have floor dynamics, the car, as soon as it gets sideways, it will go around because it's not meant for the car to go sideways. That's why these cars, you see them, if they get loose, it's not the way that you can just drag them around in that right rear like we used to see with the old cars and the Xfinity cars. It has to be planted going in the forward motion direction. So if it's not, you're going to have some trouble.
Cars with underbodies do not like y'all at all. This next-gen car is no exception. Top 3 have stayed out. Curtis Kelly, Rodney Roberts, and Christopher Bishop. One of those playoff drivers in the 42 car. Non-playoff machines leading us back to green at lap number 51. So just under 100 laps to go from Phoenix. Curtis Kelly with a nice start. Battle for second already underway. Lawson Peel going to dart to the inside of the 42. And that's fresh tire power right there. But Roberts gets loose in 1 and 2. He's going to hold on to his Toyota Camry. And there goes by the entire field.
And Curtis Kelly's going to have a pretty decent lead here, Kenneth, but these guys on tires should catch up as, look, Colin Forster now finds himself behind the 10 of Benson. Remember, Forster's in a must-win situation, Kenneth. We know that the 71s on slightly older tires haven't caught him as quickly as they've caught Rodney, but eventually here in a couple laps, they should get past that 71. Forster needs to win this race. He's in position to try and battle with the driver on his same strategy. Almost gets the...
Talk about 2 different stories in this round of 10. Benson with 2 top 10 finishes in the 2 races in this round. Forrester with a race that he didn't show up for, and then Talladega where he got crashed out on the last lap. He is looking for some way to key into this Championship 5 race. Still running in third. Benson going to run all the way at the top. He's been one of the only guys to be all the way up there in 1 and 2. That's going to open the door for that 99 car. He's going to get shut as soon as it got open. Benson's going to stay in second. Curtis Kelly just reaping the rewards of staying out. Still ahead by 0.3 of a second. You can easily see how the battles are starting to dwindle out with how hard it is to pass. But this is one of the only living battles out on track. Jaden Porter entering the top 10. Looking forward to 7th. Can't quite get it though on Adam Alashire.
And give Curtis Kelly some credit. He's been able to stay up there longer than I expected, considering how the other 2 have kind of fallen through the field. As you see, Alashire gets loose in front of Porter. You know, I'm not sure if he saved it. He did. He's able to correct the race car. He's able to join the race. You see guys are approaching him now as he's a little bit under duress, having saved that race car. And it went back to turn 2, Kenneth. Again, issues for the 91. That's the 3rd time we've seen it get sideways off that corner in 55 laps.
Alashire again with a mistake, puts him further deep in the field. This is behind Kevin D'Elia in the number 53 car, and also a playoff driver in front of D'Elia. That's Brandon Banks, who currently sits right beneath the cut line below AJ Green. He is 16 points out of the cut line, so he also needs a good race or a win if he wants to get into his 3rd straight Championship 5 race. Sideways,
84.
Derek Rung in the 84 in the dog leg. I believe that's under the racing line, so we should maintain green. He did not go officially around. He saves the Toyota Camry from any other damage. So he stays out on track. We will stay green at lap 56. And the battle for the lead is starting to heat up. Here comes Kyle Benson to the inside for the dog leg.
Battle for the lead. Benson with the fresher tires should be able to take it as they go into... Kelly will get... Forster now the next one to have to get by the 71. Kelly gets right up to the back of the 10 as the 10 slid up. And now Forster should get a little bit of race. He's looking to the outside. Kelly will shut it off right there. He's going to look back to the bottom. Kelly goes way up the racetrack, almost into the outside wall. That will give way to the second place on Forster to move that 99 up to P2. So the battle for the lead is going to be between these 2 veterans, and Colin Forster and Kyle Benson. We've seen these 2 be in this position in many seasons past. Colin Forster once made that Championship 5 back at Atlanta in one of the more dominant seasons he's had in this series. He's trying to get back to that position and fight for that championship once again. Kyle Benson, of course, as we mentioned, has been there before several times trying to get another opportunity, and these 2 are closing in on each other, but Lawson Peel is just lurking.
I was going to say, don't count out that 12 car. Yes, he fell back to 3rd. Yes, he has not been able to officially get back to the front, but he's got the opportunity to if these drivers start to tango just a bit. That 99 is trying all that he can to ruffle the 10 and make him make a mistake. So far, it is not fruitful as of the moment. That 99 car maintains in second. You see this single file train that goes all the way back for at least the top 8 or so. We've got a big pack developing right around here. This is Lance Hill and Rodney Roberts going at it side by side. That's for the last spot in the top 10. And they are being led by Kevin D'Elia in the 53, and then Adam Alashire on the back end of this. So that's the largest group that we've seen on track right now, but the field is starting to thin out. And Francisco, we are seeing one of our longest runs as Forster slips up in turns 3 and 4, and that's the open door if it happens again for Lawson Peel.
Now back on going because this is the longest run. We'll see how long that lasts as we're staying on board here with the 12. He's going to look to the inside, and this is what's going to happen, Kenneth, when you have someone running the outside. It will open the door, but right there, the advantage goes to that outside lane, and look how much ground he's able to put between himself and the 12 by the time they get back to turn 3. They entered just about even. The 12 was able to get to the inside, and now the 99 is able to be a couple car lengths ahead by the time they get to the 3 and 4. He's going to probably do the same thing here. It's definitely worked out for him lap time-wise. And you see right there, goes back to the outside. He's going more aggressive to the outside than Benson's doing right now. Peel with a little bit of a loose moment there in the middle of 1 and 2 should allow the 99 to pull away a little bit more. AJ Green has kind of lost touch with the top 3, so it's a 3-car breakaway at the front of the field. Lawson Peel kind of maintaining, so it goes back to what I said. As soon as these guys figure out that outside lane, Kenneth, in 1 and 2, it's going to be very difficult to pass because the bottom, we've seen how it's a struggle to get the power down, and the outside, you just get so much momentum. You're able to straighten the car up much earlier. You don't really have that same problem with the rear tires lighting up.
And you saw what Lawson Peel did there. He switched up his approach in turns 1 and 2, went all the way to the high side, as opposed to wrapping that yellow line on the bottom. And while you were on board with him about 2 or so laps ago, notice something very unique. With the way this 12 is driving 1 and 2 on the bottom, he dives it deep in the corner, but doesn't officially shift down to 4th gear until right about where he puts in the throttle to exit. You see him down there on the bottom once again in 1 and 2. He gets in there really deep, stays in 5th gear, lets it float down on the revs, and then kicks it into 4th, but it's not working as he has fallen off of the grasp of the 99, and AJ Green might have something to say about this battle for 3rd. But he will stay where he's at in the entire field, mostly single file, and none of them in range of battle. Here's Lance Hill looking for 9th.
And that was an interesting thing to point out there, Kenneth, that he wasn't shifting until he was going back on the throttle. Normally, you want to downshift as early as you can to allow the engine to slow down the car, because that's what engine braking is known for. You use the engine to brake a little bit more than just actual physical brakes of the race car. You see right here on board with Lance Hill, he's in 4th gear and he's staying in 4th gear. He stayed in 4th gear on the back straightaway. He gets to 5th in the dog leg, and as we go to turn 1, you see downshifts there. It doesn't go as aggressively as you could, but it is contrary to what you saw with Peel. So if we move back to the 12 car to see what he's doing, you're going to see how like you mentioned, it's different. So here he is in 3 and 4. He's in 4th gear chasing down the 99. We get past the front straightaway, and roughly the same mark here in the dogleg. He's shifted up to 5th. There you see it now. He's going to let it sit there in 5th until right about here. He's going to go down to 4th, right there. So it's an interesting approach, Kenneth. It's an unorthodox one for sure, because it goes against conventional wisdom, right? Because you like to use that engine braking to...
But what it's doing, Francisco, is balancing the race car. You looked at the onboards quickly between those two. Lance Hill is shifting earlier than this 12 car in 1 and 2. He is tiptoeing around the racetrack. He is on the verge of spinning at every single corner of this Phoenix Raceway. Meanwhile, the 12, with this unique shifting technique, is able to just smoothly roll out of the corner. His car does not step out at all. So a more balanced race car for this 12, and the 1 car is really having a war behind the wheel to keep it planted, keep it straight. He's had many moments already through this green flag run where he has shifted it up the track or just reverted it in the other direction just because he wants to take it away from completely spinning. Keep an eye on that 1 as here comes the 12, a big dive on the outside of the 99. This is helping Kyle Benson, by the way, pull away to the tune of 7/10 of a second. Still looking at this battle behind this 10 car because Peel was doing everything in his power to break the 99's defense, and maybe it could work. Nice run out of turn 4.
He gets a good run, but usually the shift kind of negates the run a little bit, and now that he's going inside, we'll see how aggressive he gets. He kind of backs out a little bit early, but Forster goes a little bit high. He's going to try and arc it down and actually will give him the position. Forster concedes 2nd place, even though he did look like he had the advantage. So Lawson Peel now moves up to P2. Forster decides to settle in and look at the back of the 12 car. Not too far behind is going to be that 48 of AJ Green. We'll see if he can try to catch up to this group. He's pulled away from the 13, who's a little bit further back, who's pulled away from 6th. And AJ Green going to try and see if he can do something to try and make some ground up. AJ Green, I believe, below the cut line going into this race, Kenneth, so he needs to try and have a good run, if not win this race, much like the 99.
Oh, sideways,
peels around!
Peels around. That was lap car Tyler Murray there around him. Caution is out, lap 71, and it's the defending champion who gets spun.
Luckily for him, Kenneth, he didn't hit anything, so there's no damage on that 12 car. And it doesn't look like he's going to be too far down the order. I'm not sure what happened. I know we saw the lap 1 camera angle staying down on the racetrack, so we'll see here what happens. But going down into 3, and it just looks like a bad timing right there. It looks like the 16 was willing to let most of the field go. He was definitely trying to stay out of the way, and was going significantly slower to allow cars to go past. I'm not sure if he was trying to stay off that inside wall. It is an interesting angle which it kind of jumps out at you. Or if Peel expected to be clear with the way he entered the corner and just was not. I'm not particularly sure. Don't really want to say it's on one or the other there, but that is not what you want to happen if you're the driver of the 12. You're in a good spot. No damage to this race car, which is good, but you can't have too many of these moments. If not, they definitely make it things too close for comfort.
You know, it just kind of reminds me of that Alex Bowman 2016 situation. He was out on the bottom, car was on the outside, and he basically had no space, and it was just a merge of 2 lanes, right?
That was close
16
right there.
was trying to let everybody by. Unfortunately, the 12 arcs it to get to the bottom first, and they both make contact, sending Peel around. Now, the good news, like you said, for the 12 car is that he will not accrue any damage to warrant either a fast repair or a tow for pit road, but track position is going to be ripped away from him. He's going to be 15th, but he will gain some positions. Drivers are on pit road, including Christopher Bishop and Eric Schaefer, a pair of playoff drivers who have struggled in tonight's race from Phoenix. They're also going to bring in, of course, Tyler Murray in that 16 car. And so that will shift 3rd place to whoever's going to win the race off pit road, because Curtis Kelly has come in. Well, he was in front of AJ Green at the time of the timing sheet, but it looked like that was because of pit road. So AJ Green, Jaden Porter going to occupy the rest of the top 4. And so we'll have the rest of these guys stay out. We'll get the results of everybody who came in this time by. Now, here's a pivotal moment in this race, Francisco.
I was going to mention this.
I knew it. As soon as you raised your voice, I was like, we're going to talk about this. Lap 75 here in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series is pivotal. Why? Because in this series, at halfway of every single race, there is it's somewhat of a stage break, but without the caution. So it's not really a break. It's just stage points awarded to the drivers inside the top 5 at the halfway mark of the race. We are coming up on lap number 75, the official halfway mark of tonight's race from Phoenix. Top 5 getting points. This is big.
It is. It allows Kyle Benson to have a little bit of a safer buffer. You'd like to think that maybe he's safe now, considering the points gap. But, of course, if somebody outside wins, it does make things more interesting. Forrester, the points don't matter for him. He has to win the race. AJ Green's below the cut line. The points will help the driver of the 48. You look a little bit further down, Jaden Porter, he's already in Lance Hill in a must-win situation. So, overall, most of the people that needed points did not get them in this stage break. Of course, it is going to be at the end of this lap because it's lap 75 right now. But Lawson Peel, crucially, did not get any points because he was running in the top 5, Kenneth. So while he is safe, if it does come down to a matter of 1 or 2 points, you could look at this and point the finger and say, maybe that's a moment in the race in which something could have gone differently. We won't know that until the end of the race once everything is said and done. But it is worth mentioning. He did come down pit road. I'm not sure if he took tires. If he did, it's going to be interesting to watch him go through this field. The 10 of Benson will lead us to the green flag with Colin Forrester. AJ Green is going to be 3rd. Jaden Porter will be in the 4th position. As you see right there, the shot the 48 gives to the 10 to be able to go. He's going to get underway. Benson with a great restart. He's going to have a huge lead down into turn 1. And AJ Green goes to the inside of Forrester, almost clears him going into turn 1, but lets off early, and that's going to allow Forrester to fight back on the outside. And Forrester should get the run down the back straightaway. AJ Green's going to try and hold down the bottom. Lance Hill's going to try and move up into the 4th spot. He's trying to get past the 28 of Porter. AJ Green now is going to clear the 99 for 2nd place.
And first time we see Lance Hill in the top 5 in a while. Porter's going to fight back, though, on the top side. Saw a bit of contact there in turns 1 and 2 on the restart, given to the 53 of Kevin D'Elia. He saved it. So obviously nobody went around. There was no other trouble besides that bit of contact. Hill is forcing Forrester up the track. Car sideways into the barrier. That is Christopher Bishop. Big time damage on the left front.
Yellow. No caution flag has been waved. It looks like he never went around, so iRacing did not deem a yellow. I think he's got the left front damage. It looks like, yes, heavy damage on that left front for that matter. So let's look here. Loose off of turn 2 and just barely clips it. Look, that front end is sitting on the racetrack. No caution for debris here on the sim, and that left front destroyed. The suspension is broken. He has to go all the way around the racetrack because that place where he hit was the pit entry, so he has to do a whole lap going slow with that damage, bring it down pit road and use a fast repair. Christopher Bishop's chances of winning this race are most likely done with that, without the caution that he needed to be able to not lose as many laps, Kenneth. So Christopher Bishop, if he wants to win this race, is going to need a lot of luck between now and lap 150. And there you see Craig Lautenschlager now to the inside of Porter. Those two have nothing to worry about tonight. They're just having fun. They know they're going to be racing for a championship next weekend. Kenneth, having been on both sides of the situation where you're locked in or whether you're racing, it's tough to beat these two. Why? You want to go up there and race for the win, but you also know these other guys are going to be way more aggressive about it than you are, and they have more things to lose than you. So do you want to put yourself in a spot where something bad can happen for no reason, or do you just want to capitalize on an opportunity if it presents itself?
Well, you probably just want to capitalize on what's shown in front of you, right? And you think of Talladega as a prime example. It's Craig Lautenschlager picks up a bunch of positions here, gets around Jaden Porter, and now going to fight here with Lance Hill for position number 4. Might also catch up to Colin Forrester. Him and Brandon Banks making some moves at this juncture. I mean, you look at Talladega, Porter was already locked in. He won the race at Charlotte Motor Speedway to get into the Championship 5. He was just running his own race, and he was given the opportunity, so he went for it. Did all that he could to stay up front, have a bit of fun, go 3 wide for the lead, and block for position, and do all sorts of things while keeping it clean. So if you're one of these drivers locked in, you're probably just going to look for the opportunities when they're there. And if you've got enough speed, you've got enough confidence, then why not go for it? And nothing is better than having 2 wins in 1 round heading into the championship race. It gives you so much more momentum and confidence overall for not only you and your team, but we're going to talk about teams as well. I mean, look at the way that we've seen playoff fights be manipulated with Drinking Bros Racing, and you look at Stonks Motorsports, the way they race to get their teammates in the championship if they're locked in. This round is very different. Why? Because Jaden Porter and Craig Lautenschlager, they barely have teammates, if not any teammates, running for the championship still, the 4Y Cup playoffs. So they have a hard time playing manipulation game for teammates if they're not necessarily there.
That's very true, Kenneth. We do know Craig Lautenschlager, though part of Southern Heat Racing, he's closely aligned with Murray Reading Motorsports. In fact, is moving there for next season in the 4-wide racing series. So he basically has some kind of deal there with those guys unofficially at the moment. And we know that the driver of the 28 has had Rodney Roberts as a teammate, so of course who hasn't made too many appearances, but whenever the 20 car is in the field, he tries to play some help to the driver of the 28. So Porter, for the most part, has kind of been a lone wolf from the BBR camp, but he's made it work. He's been able to fight against those odds, won a race to get himself into the playoffs, won another one to make the championship round, and was one of the more exciting drivers to watch at Talladega, as Brandon Banks with a huge save there in the middle of the corner in that dirty air. Porter, despite not having any teammate help for the most part, Kenneth, really has done a lot for himself, especially those super speedway races, as right now he is under fire from Curtis Kelly. But to be in this position with no real significant teammate help throughout the season, very impressive stuff.
Yeah, really cool to see what Jaden Porter has been able to do without having many teammates around him. And he's gained so much respect with the drivers in this series, whether they're veterans or whether they're new. He has raced them cleanly. He has been fast up front many races throughout this season. Even last season, when he came in, he's been so good that all the drivers respect him. And even without teammates, he's been able to flourish as he's going to be fighting for that championship 1 week from tonight at Homestead Miami Speedway. Now, to know, Craig Lautenschlager and Brandon Banks' move up to the front has been by design. This is from strategy. They have fresher tires. They came down pit road around 14 laps ago. So that's why you're seeing them just spearhead through the field, despite the fact that they have not been able to really have this much progress in this short amount of time all race long. Fresh tires have helped them. Strategy has been on their side. So they're going to try and pounce on the 2 leaders up front. 13 is going to look onwards to the 48 of AJ Green. This is the look exiting the dog leg for turns 1 and 2. Brandon Banks a little more cautious after that mistake a couple of laps ago, but that 13 is striking.
I do like this call of strategy by both drivers for the reason they may have done so. Launsberger has nothing to lose. We've documented that. He won last week. He's in the championship. Do a different strategy to go for the win. He hasn't had the fastest car or the fastest 2 or 3 cars, but now he makes the move for second after the strategy call, Kenneth, and he's going to give himself an opportunity to get some track position, go up there, race with the likes of Kyle Benson to maybe try and get another win, give himself some more momentum going into the championship fight. That is definitely what the 13 would love to have on his side. And if you're Brandon Banks, you're in a must-win situation. If you do what everybody in front of you does, you might not make it. So do something different that you feel could give you a chance to go up there. And I'm sure this was running through his mind during those cautions. Maybe pit one of these times, strap on some new tires, and you might find yourself in a good enough spot and a lucky enough spot where the run goes long enough for you to use that tire advantage. You see right here, Forster has fallen down the order, Kenneth. I'm not sure when this happened, but he's now losing a spot outside of the top 10. Eric Schaefer will go by him. Rodney Roberts now behind the 99 of Forster. So not a good sequence in this race right now for the 99, Kenneth. Spots when he needs to be up front trying to win this race to advance.
He has relatively older tires, but he is the worst off out of any of the drivers who have stayed out for 42 laps in their stint. Now, Lawson Peel did come down pit road around 18 laps ago, but he only had a 7-second stop, which obviously could be the clue for obviously full fuel to make it to the stint, and 2 tires. 14.5 seconds usually is the marker for 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, but for the 12 cars, 7 seconds might have just been a 2-tire stop for the SpaceX Camaro. The progress has been slow, but it's been there. He's looking on Kevin DeLeo this time by for the P8 spot on that 53, and there's a decent gap up to Jaden Porter in the 28. We'll see what Lawson Peel can do, but we are winding down into the final 50 laps here at Phoenix, and there's one thing to note about a track this short at 1 mile in distance. Laps can tick down rather quickly, as here's Craig Lautenschlager eyeing in on your leader out of turn 4.
The American Airlines machine is going to try and lead this race. Lautenschlager looks to the inside. He has the nose there. He's going to back out of it. He's being patient. He knows he has a tire advantage, and he knows Banks behind him is on the same strategy, so he doesn't want to wait too long and allow the 54 to get into this. Remember, this all affects the championship. Craig Lautenschlager knows the 54 needs to win this race to be able to make the championship. If you think about this strategically as the 13, you think you're going to get past the driver of the 10. You don't want to let the 54 go up there and win, because do you want to battle the 54? That stuff does run through your mind when you're in this situation, Kenneth. We've seen it play out a couple times in different leagues, in different situations, where you, as somebody who's already in, can play a role in who makes it and who doesn't make it. As it looks like there was a moment for Lawson Peel here during this run off of turn 2. Eric Schaefer gets right behind him here off of turn 4. These two have already had a moment or two in these playoffs, but he gets loose on his own in the dogleg and loses a couple of positions, Kenneth. So again, we've documented Lawson Peel having a good distance to the cut line, but right now, as it's currently playing out with Banks being this close to the front of the field and the discrepancy in running positions, you don't exactly feel in a great position if you're Lawson Peel, but if a caution comes out, it could definitely help his situation.
His race has turned around 100% in the way that he was dominating first part of this race when all those cautions were coming out, and even somewhat under green, but then he got passed, and he has never been able to recover. Whoa, Brandon Banks way deep in a 1 and 2. It got him closer to the 13's rear bumper, but it probably scared Lautenschlager quite a bit. Almost took them both out in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that's not what the 54 wanted to do. I don't think he expected Lautenschlager to check up as much as it looks like he backed out to avoid that battle with the 10. Slips up a bit, and the 54 just shows up on the scene on his own pace and has to take precautionary action. They've recovered from that. And AJ Green has not had one of the fastest cars, but he's consistently staying close enough to the front cars that are battling. We usually see him running in the 4th spot, about a second or two off your leaders, and there he is again doing the exact same thing. Has only led 1 lap, but he's consistently just shadowing these guys, keeping them in his eyes and keeping them in his vision, because he's also in a situation where he probably has to win this race to advance. So as long as you keep the leader relatively in distance, if he gets a caution or any sort of break, it could go his way. And we've had a long enough run now. We've had these strategies. If we stay green flag, there is a group of cars that have to come down pit road. Everybody still has to pit again, but it's going to be when you pit that's going to make the difference in who is able to come out and win this race, because with such a large gap in when these guys have to come down pit road, an untimely caution could shake the field up, much like we've seen earlier in this same round.
You read my mind there. I was about to say that huge gap at almost 30 laps between guys like Banks Lounslarger and then the likes of Kyle Benson, AJ Green, and some others in this field, Colin Forster, Lance Hill, Jaden Porter. It's going to be such a big time difference between those guys if this race stays green. But you also have to keep in mind how many laps are left, how many laps you want to have out on the track on your new set of tires so you can cycle back through the field. That's the big question. But obviously, that's if a yellow does not come out. We've had our pretty much longest green flag run of the night as we approach 50 laps to go. Kyle Benson in control here at Phoenix Raceway in the final race of the round of 10. Don't go anywhere. More from Avondale, Arizona on the other side.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, limitable. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
wanted the best, you got him for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
$107 laps in the books here from Phoenix Raceway. Welcome back to our coverage of the last race in the round of 10 for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs right here on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacallao to bring you all the coverage tonight to the checkered flag and beyond. Kyle Benson, your leader by around 0.3 of a second over Brandon Banks, then Craig Lounslarger closing out the top three. And we were talking about this, Francisco, under break. You are Larry McReynolds, our mathematician, trying to decide how the points are going to be shuffled. We're looking at the battle for the lead now. If Banks were to take over this spot, the drivers that are in jeopardy for the last spot of the Championship 5 are the two trapped in 9th and 10th. Eric Schaefer, who just got around his teammate and defending champ, Lawson Peel.
And to explain to the viewers so that they're aware of the situation, Kyle Benson would be in on the points if Banks were to get past him anyway. He's ahead of these two, which are the two nearest in points, and they're separated all by one singular point. With the 3 being ahead of the 12, they're tied in points, Kenneth. They will be tied in points. And if you look behind them, that's actually Runge, who's a lap down, so that's not for position. I'm not sure where the next closest car for position is. It's Cody Kinsey, but Kinsey's a couple of seconds behind these guys. There you see Forrester, who's a little bit further back, but Kinsey's a couple seconds behind Peel. Peel's been struggling on this, Kenneth. If anything goes haywire for him, or if Schaefer gets up and makes a couple of passes, that could spell trouble to your defending champ, who has really been struggling with the race car this run. It has not looked like the driver we saw all season long.
And it also has not looked like the car that we saw in the first half of this race. We were on board with him a while back. This car was so planted in the corners, and now it is wobbling all over the place. It was reminiscent to what we saw out of Lance Hill in the last run, but now his car seems to be rather stable. He's still holding up the 8th place position. Lance Hill came into this race 17 points off of the cut line. So he's kind of in the middle of all this and might be a factor if he's able to gain more spots. But our biggest focus is Brandon Banks, Kyle Benson, and of course, the two that we saw right there, Eric Schaefer and Lawson Peel, in that battle for the last transfer spot to get into Homestead, Miami. The drama is not over yet. We've seen it all tonight, Francisco. Playoff drivers in trouble. We've seen strategy unfold in many different ways. Kyle Benson up front right now, and possibly one of our closest battles to make it into the Championship 5 in series history.
The closest as it can possibly get, because as they run, if Banks does go and take the lead, it will be tied for the last spot between Schaefer and Peel. As we mentioned, there was 1 point separating them, with Peel being a point ahead of Schaefer, and with Schaefer being 1 position ahead of Lawson Peel. After neither got stage points, a slip up by the 10, Banks will have a hole. It could mean that they are tied for position as they run. So I think if you are the 3 or the 12, you have to treat this as if Banks is going to win this race, because you cannot fall back on him not winning.
And if you also think about them tying in points, then you need to come into fact the tiebreakers, how this is going to be settled. The two drivers that are tied, if it goes by wins, then we are possibly looking at Lawson Peel, of course, jumping all the drivers in front of him and his teammates, Brandon Banks, Eric Schaefer. Here's your leader, Kyle Benson, hitting pit road, part of the 2 different strategies that we've seen on display here at Phoenix. Benson 66 laps in. He's going to come in this time.
He brings it down pit road, and how soon will Banks follow? We know everyone can make it to the end of the race, but will he give himself a tire advantage? How much time will he lose to the 10 by staying out versus how much will he gain back? There's 35 laps to go, so there's not much room here if you're going to try to use fresh tires as an advantage. He'll stay out. We know he can go a lot longer on fuel. AJ Green's going to stay out as well. Lounsloger's in. You see aggressively going to that cone, and it's crucial to point out that cone, look how far into the pit lane it is instead of at the barrel where we normally see it. So it's going to be crucial to point out, and also crucial to see, Kenneth, what goes on with this 12 car. You see he's really fallen off the pace a little bit more. He's lost a lot of ground to Schaefer, and I believe that's Cody Kinsey's that's appearing into the picture all the way in the back. Actually, no, that's Kinsey in front of him now, Kenneth. That's a crucial pass. If Banks were to win this race, that's the 1 point that Eric Schaefer needs to get ahead of the 12 car.
That is monumental for Lawson Peel there in the worst way possible. AJ Green has taken over second. Brandon Banks 3.5 seconds ahead in the lead. And again, we're just going to be continuing to question when these cars are coming in, because Lounsloger, he's on the same strategy of Banks. He came in around a lap ago. Banks is going to stay out, and AJ Green looks like he's going to hop on the binders. He will come in. So there goes the 48. Curtis Kelly has settled into third. This strategy has really played out nicely for the Hot Wheels Camaro. He's going to stay out an extra lap. And then here's Jaden Porter, who's on 69-lap old tires along with that 48. That's going to be switched over in a moment. Rodney Roberts has taken over fourth in all this. And this race has severely shaken up. As there's Brandon Banks. There's lap car Tony Kibbett around him. We're going to be watching the fight on pit road. There's Lance Hill, Lawson Peel, Eric Schaefer among those playoff drivers that are in.
And of course, Schaefer, having driven away from the 12, will exit ahead. We'll see if new tires help the driver of the 12, Kenneth. He was struggling on that really long run, losing out that track position. He's going to lose out to that 33, who I believe is lapped, so it's not for position. But Lawson Peel finds himself in an interesting battle that I don't think you or I could him being in, but it presents itself here tonight at Phoenix. Brandon Banks yet to come down pit road. When he decides to pit will be interesting, but it's also worth pointing out Lounslauger is ahead of Benson. So as far as people who have pitted already, the 13 should cycle out to be your race leader unless Banks does some different strategy. We know he can't make it on fuel without stopping, but does he do something different on this?
We'll just have to see. And also in this battle between Lounslauger and Benson for what is currently the net race lead, Benson is faster, and he was faster that last lap by almost a full 0.3 of a second. He's starting to close in that gap, so we'll see that continue to chip down. Here is the Toyota, Rodney Roberts coming in this time by, and it's been just a huge waiting game to see all these guys come in. I'm surprised that Jaden Porter is staying out as long as he is. I mean, he's already locked in, so he can just pull off this wild strategy no matter what. But it's interesting to see him, Curtis Kelly, Cody Kinsey, Colin Forster, among all those that have stayed out until this point. You can cross off the 99 because he's in this time through. While this 54 car stays out, he is 48 laps into his stint. Now, I'm going to turn back to the point that I made about tiebreakers. Now, obviously, if there's 1 point or more difference, this conversation will not matter. But if it comes down to tiebreakers, we may include wins into the category to split those drivers up. Lawson Peel will win the fight outright if it were him against anybody else. Most likely his teammates, Brandon Banks and Eric Schaefer. He has 7 wins. The other drivers, if Banks wins tonight, will have 2 in equal. But if it's Banks and Eric Schaefer in a tiebreaker, then it might be a little more complicated than that. We'll have to dive into some stats, maybe best finish in the round. And if it comes down to that, then Banks and Schaefer have been somewhat all over the place in both races, especially last week at Talladega, where both of them struggled early on and then even later on in the race. But we'll see what happens. Banks is going to stay out on the track. Curtis Kelly is going to stay out as well. Jaden Porter's coming in. He's going to miss his stall.
He missed it by a good margin. It looked like he was just too far to the right, actually, so he has to correct that. Banks stays out, and a car loose, very loose behind Kyle Benson, and that could be why the 54 is playing this strategy. I mentioned it, with guys coming down pit road trying to get new tires. We saw how much of a struggle it was earlier in this race. If the yellow flag were to come out for somebody having a mishap, he has the whole field trapped the lap down, and it could definitely play into his hands. He's losing a good bit of time, so he hasn't actually come down pit road yet, and he might lose the battle for the lead. But this is a gamble, and if you're the 54, a gamble that you probably have to take, because this is your opportunity to go to that championship fight as we see a battle for what should be the net race lead, as Lounslauger will get held up by Pivot in the outside lane, giving way to the driver of the 10 to be able to take the position over him. Lounslauger not going to like that one. He's going to lose the lead, or what should be the net race lead, to the driver of the 10, and he should now get past Tony Kivitt. So what a moment there, and this is crucial. The 10 is going to unlap himself to the race leader.
Benson is making progress significantly, and as Banks will come down pit road, whatever he does, and the same will go for the 71 of Curtis Kelly, who's now just coming across the start-finish line. It looks like the 10 will have the lead, and maybe by over a second, with the way that checkup happened between the 13 and the 76. Looks like Tyler Murray, league owner. We have live scoring as it stands. And as it goes through, we'll keep an eye on that throughout this race and see exactly what develops and who will make it in and who will be out of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs for this year. But for Kyle Benson, this is looking fruitful. As long as he stays out and no cautions come out, this 10 car could be in prime opportunity to get his 2nd win of the year.
And we'll just have to see how this unfolds, Kenneth. There's still a good bit to go in this race, and Banks, if he comes down pit road now, and regardless of what he does, he might lose the race lead unless he tries to do some 2-tire strategy here to get himself fresher right sides, but to try and see if he can shorten the pit stop and do something different. I'm not sure what he's aiming for. Again, I don't think he has the fuel to make it to the end. His last pit stop was about 60 laps ago. I know you're able to check that and verify just exactly how long ago it was, but it certainly cannot go to the end of this race in terms of fuel. So he has to definitely come down pit road, and you see the way he's running, he's trying to see if he can make it back. So I expect a pit stop here to happen very soon for the 54 of Banks, and what he does is going to be interesting because where will it cycle him out? What will happen to the point situation? Again, if Banks or anybody below the cut line were to win this race, it would move everything down and force Peel and Schaefer into a points battle, which they're currently battling on the racetrack. So it's definitely still able to go in any direction. I think right now Banks is still hoping for a yellow flag to trap the field a lap down to give himself a best chance to win, but laps continue to click under the green flag.
The laps are clicking, and it's probably louder than what's inside this race car because you just heard in 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4, Brandon Banks is clutching and coasting. He is trying to save as much fuel as physically possible. There it is, kicking in the clutch again. 5th gear in 3 and 4. He's going to wash up the racetrack, let AJ Green by. A guy on fresh tires going to unlap himself in 5th. And one of the longest stints we saw was Jaden Porter, who went approximately 69 or so laps before coming in. Banks is currently on lap 58. So it's all a matter of who can go the longest, and we'll keep an eye here with Curtis Kelly in the 71. He is also saving fuel. So both of your leaders in their Camaros are saving gas. And like you said, Francisco, hoping for yellow to come out. Benson hoping he can get there and cycle back to the lead. 20 laps to go.
Yeah, when you do the math, they don't have enough fuel to make it. They'll be at best about 8 or so laps short. So they're definitely hoping for a yellow flag between now and the end of the race to keep the track position. They're sold on this strategy. It is what they're going to do. No one is able to contest the 10 of Benson on this same strategy. Lance Laver's a second and a half behind. He's already in. AJ Green is several seconds behind the driver of the 10, so he can't get up there without the help of a yellow flag. And looks like the new tires have definitely helped the 12 of Peel. He's doing a lot better. Was able to get past Eric Schaefer, so he is helping himself in that battle in case it comes down to it. But right now, at least with the way things look like they're going to play out, the 12 should be in a good spot. Of course, again, still dependent on the 54 and where the final results end up being. But at least if we stay under green between now and the checkered flag, Lawson Fuel, as currently presenting itself, should be in a good enough spot. A yellow flag could change all of that, of course.
Well, according to our points, as of live scoring done by league owner Tyler Murray, he gave an update for lap 132. Obviously, things are going to be changing fluidly as this race progresses. If Banks were to win this race, the battle for the transfer would be at 4 points to the good for Lawson Peel, where he stands. Eric Schaefer will be behind him. He will be the first driver out. AJ Green, Lance Hill, Forrester, Christopher Bishop will be among those that would be eliminated. 16 laps to go. But again, that's if Brandon Banks leads this race to the end. If he does not make it on gas, or if he's not able to stay up front and Kyle Benson wins this race, then it is a very different story. And we're going to be looking at that 54, possibly an elimination. And then a good segue for Lawson Peel and company to get into a Championship 5 berth at Homestead.
And you know, Kenneth, while we're on the discussion of the points, because that's what these last 15 laps are about to be about, if you look at the situation in which the 10 of Benson were to win this race, that shifts the points discussion over to AJ Green and Eric Schaefer. That battle currently is won by Schaefer by 1 singular point. AJ Green's in no man's land. He has nobody in front or behind that he can maybe make a pass on or lose a position to. So AJ Green's basically counting on finishing in this position. So his chances of making the championship round are on Eric Schaefer. If he loses or gains positions, he has to, for his situation, he has to hope the 3-car loses a position, because that will result in a tie. And as you mentioned, the tiebreaker situation, I believe, will go to the AJ Green machine, allowing him a berth into that championship fight, Kenneth. So no matter who wins this race, you're looking at single-digit point paying positions determining who makes the championship round, if not a potential tie.
Yeah, it is really close between these guys. And much like Brandon Banks, AJ Green is going to have to hope for a yellow with the situation that's panning out. As it stands, we are at 13 laps to go, and Banks is slowing down lap after lap. A 29.5 set last time by. It was a 28.3, a full second and 1/10 faster for Kyle Benson in the 10, who has unlapped himself. He is 10.5 seconds off your race leader. and it is going to be dramatically close between these two. Banks is just going to have to hope that he can make it all the way to the checkered flag, but he is at 66 laps and counting on his stint. That's a lot.
Yeah, he's going to have to pit sometime in the next 5 laps, Kenneth. You're asking a lot of the fuel tank. I know he's been saving a lot for a decent amount of time, but you're just asking a lot of the fuel tank. You would have had to save over 10 laps of fuel. That's 10 miles, which to maintain pace to do it is one thing versus trying to do it normally. He is losing about 1 second every lap to the driver of the 10. There you see Lawson Field trying to unlap himself now with Tony Kivet in tow. Banks trying to do everything he can. He's cutting the dogleg, running the apron, trying to shorten the distance as much as possible. But it's just he's losing time, of course, because he has to go slower. But I think he knows he can't go to the end. I think he's aware of that situation, and he's just trying to make this last as long as possible, hoping that that magical yellow flag will show up and help himself. There's Curtis Kelly being passed by the 10 of Benson, so Benson's now in a legit second place position as he runs, and he's now just under 8 seconds behind your race leader. So at the rate he's going, he should get there at about 5 to go if the 54 does not come down pit road by then. And looking at live points right now, we have a tie. We have a tie for the last points paying position for the championship 5 between AJ Green and Eric Schaefer with 10 laps to go.
That is monumental, and I was about to turn off the point before you made it. And the fact that even if Brandon Banks can make it all the way to the end of this race, Kyle Benson is going to catch him. He is setting laps more than a second, that time by almost 2 seconds faster than driver number 54. So Benson is going to get there regardless at the rate that he's catching if a yellow does not come out. Lance Hill is sideways out of turn 2. He's going to save it. He hit the inside wall quite a bit, but he's going to keep it straight, and that could have been the savior for Brandon Banks, who's going to catch 8 laps to go.
And that's why he's still out there, Kenneth. He knows it can happen at any time. He has to just give himself that opportunity. Now you see them in the same shot. That's Benson all the way back there in that little group that's going through turn 1 now. Loudslugger's moved up past Curtis Kelly for P3. And do remember, Curtis Kelly is on the same strategy, so we'll see where he cycles out relative to Schaefer, because soon enough, AJ Green should get past Curtis Kelly, and that'll be a crucial point for him. But if Schaefer gets past Curtis Kelly too, it'll undo that process. So it's going to be something to watch in the closing laps. And of course, Lance Hill was one behind Eric Schaefer. There's Schaefer now unlapping himself, so Curtis Kelly might lose out to both. So both guys might end up getting that point. But if you look behind Eric Schaefer, there's Tony Kivet, Lance Hill. Lance Hill's the one from the position. We saw him have his issues a little bit a moment ago. So if Hill's able to catch up there and battle that driver, it's going to come down to, can Schaefer defend for his life to make that championship fight? Look at all this traffic with 6 laps to go.
And this is going to be big for Kyle Benson, because he's going to have to clear it and hope that these guys do not end up in a battle where one of them makes contact or one of them makes a mistake to cause a yellow. Colin Forrester and Lance Hill, that is for position. For P9, they're also bringing in, of course, Cody Kinsey, Rodney Roberts. This is everybody 9th through 12th. These are all points-paying positions. Forrester, in the situation that he's found himself in with 6 laps to go, looks like he is not going to make the championship 5 no matter what happens, and they are all getting by Brandon Banks, the Everlast Camaro. He's stuck on the bottom, still trying to save fuel. Kyle Benson is closed in to under a second. He can see the 54 now.
But there's a lot of traffic, Kenneth, and a lot can happen. So Banks is going so slowly, you expect the pass happen in the next lap or so, because look how much slower the 54 is having to run to try and make it to the end. He's going to actually get past here on the front straightaway, we expect, and there you see now the change of lead will occur right now. Kyle Benson is going to get past the 54 going into turn 1. And there it is. Kyle Benson now retakes the top spot away from Brandon Banks. That will change how the points are formatted. But there is a 1-point advantage to Eric Schaefer as we speak. So it's going down to the very last couple of laps here to who makes it in.
You're right on board with the number 10 of Kyle Benson, who just took over the race lead with 4 laps to go. And is that the cue for Banks to come in? Or can he try and hold on to whatever is left in that fuel tank and make it all the way to the end? He is coasting at this point. Craig Lounslauger might have a chance to get by before this is all said and done. Kyle Benson, though, will come out of turns 3 and 4 and get 2 laps to go from Phoenix.
It's crucial that if those guys can make it on fuel, AJ Green's within touching distance of Curtis Kelly. If Green gets past him and Schaefer does not, that is a point towards AJ Green, which could lead to the tie for the final spot. So there's AJ Green, and Curtis Kelly's a little bit further behind. So while Kyle Benson is about to take the white flag, Kenneth, all eyes are on Curtis Kelly and AJ Green for that last spot.
Kyle Benson has a heap of traffic in front of him. This is for position just inside and outside of the top 10. But out of turn 4, Kyle Benson grabs the white flag from Avondale, Arizona. And we talk about the story for driver number 10. Had his ACL torn in the middle of the season, tried his very best to get back into the playoff fight, missed the playoffs by a couple of points. Kinsey's in the wall! Right into Benson, who's gonna go sideways. Brandon Banks gets by, and in the final 2 corners, Brandon Banks is going to his 3rd straight Championship 5 winner from Phoenix. My goodness!
Wow! Unreal! I am at a loss for words, Kenneth, at what just transpired. It looked like Benson had that race, and then the lap cars, just, I don't know, I'm not sure what happened, but you have to feel for Benson. He's in the Championship 5. That is not for question here, but he does not win the race. It is Brandon Banks who capitalizes on the last lap, on the last straightaway, to win his way into the Championship 5, and by virtue of about 5 points, Lawson Peel will get it in the last spot over Eric Schaefer after that situation there. Lap there, Lawson congratulated his teammate. Wow, Kenneth, I can't believe it.
Brandon Banks, my goodness, in a last lap sequence of events where Cody Kinsey goes hard into the wall, comes back down into Kyle Benson. Brandon Banks on fumes wins here from Phoenix. He can't even celebrate. He's getting pushed by his teammate Lawson Peel. Eric Schaefer, part of the Drinkin' Bros Racing team, to join the celebrations. We have to watch that lap one more time, because at that point, Francisco, we thought that was it. We thought Benson was going to be good enough to get that win, put himself into the Championship 5 in convincing fashion, had the strategy work out in his favor. But again, it's the traffic in front that gets him.
But you know what, Kenneth? After getting past, that's why the 54 stays out there. You never know what can happen. Of course, it takes luck, but it worked out in his situation. There's the crash, and he had enough fuel to just get there. And he did still have to hold off Lounslauger. If you looked at the replay there long enough, Lounslauger was not too far behind the 54. Bankson was getting ready to make a pass for position. There you see the crash. It looked like there was contact between Hill and Kinsey, which sends Kinsey flying into the outside wall and into Benson later on. Banks has the track clear up for him, and as he approaches the line, Lounslauger just not close enough. And you think back to moments in this race, Kenneth, that led to this moment. The issues for the driver, the 12 early on, midway through the race, that Banks strategy call by Banks to take that alternate strategy on the first set of stops when there was cautions, that gave him the track position to try this in the first place. I think that is a remarkable thing, and one that probably won't get talked about, but certainly one I'll remember for sure. The call to get those fresher tires that gave him track position, that allowed him to even try this strategy. And again, it took a little bit of luck, but you need luck in racing, and Brandon Banks has hit the lottery with that on the last lap.
What an unbelievable last lap here at Phoenix. We thought it couldn't get closer than that. Well, it does. Lawson Peel's trying to push his teammate into victory lane. He's severely damaged the car quite a bit. But Brandon Banks, doesn't matter how much damage he's got now, he makes it to the end on fumes. And he is your winner here in Avondale, Arizona, getting into his 3rd straight Championship 5. That storyline continues, Francisco. The way that Brandon Banks is able to will his way into a championship race, no matter what the circumstances tell him. He was in the Championship 5 in Season 3, second to AJ Green. He was second to Lawson Peel in Season 4's championship race at Texas. and now he's got a chance to fight for one more.
Third time's the charm for him. Hopefully that's what he's thinking right now.
So he's going to
You
get
see
pushed.
right there. Oh, he misses it.
Oh, he missed the entrance. Well, they're going to try to get him into Phoenix Raceway victory lane. One of the cool things you could do here on this new Phoenix Raceway in Sim is drive into the victory circle. Lawson Peel's going to try to make sure he can get that 54 there, but it's been a little tough. I mean, when you don't have gas, you can't drive the car. So he's trying to get his teammates to help. But Brandon Banks still savoring the celebrations here at Phoenix Raceway. Before we get to the official point standings, let's give you the rundown, the unofficial results here from Arizona, the penultimate race of Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Brandon Banks wins this race in stunning fashion. Beats Kyle Benson in the competition on saving strategy to win and to get into Homestead, Miami with a chance at a title. Craig Lautenslager, already locked in after last week's race at Talladega, comes away with a great second-place finish. Got to give credit to the 13 by putting his heart and soul into this race, even though he was already locked in. Curtis Kelly, his strategy also pays off. Him and Banks on the same strat, and it all works for top 3, both of those drivers. AJ Green comes home in 4th, a solid outing for driver 48. Really clean all night long, apart from the first-hand contact on lap 1 with Lance Hill. Kyle Benson, close to winning this race by more than a couple hundred feet. Gets hit by Cody Kinsey, loses it, and falls to the top 5. Lawson Peel, defending champion, is P6 at the end of it. Jaden Porter is 7th. Eric Schaefer is 8th. Colin Forrester is 9th, and rounding out the top 10, a roller coaster race for the driver of the 1, Lance Hill.
Looking at 11th, Rodney Roberts, who persevered all night, will get a lead lap finish. Cody Kinsey, the driver involved in that last lap incident, will finish in 12th, 2 laps down. Tyler Warner will finish in 13th with Tony Kivitt. In the 14th position, Kevin DeLeo will finish 15th. Michael Newbraw rounds out in 16th. Derek Runge finishing in the 17th position. League owner Tyler Murray left early on and was doing live point scoring afterwards. He's in the 18th position. Adam Alashire with his stroke finished in 20th. Christopher Bishop, who was in a must-win situation, of course, did not win this race, so he is out of the playoffs, and that is going to round out your field here from Phoenix. Actually, Jesse Prees, who started this race and was involved in an early incident. I was trying to figure out who had the tiebreaker in case Schaefer and Green, because if the result stayed with that final, with the way we started the final lap and the 10 won the race, it would have been a tie for the last spot, but neither driver gets in. Schaefer, of course, misses it out by 5 points to Lawson Peel. Banks wins the race to get in. Benson solidly in on points.
So Brandon Banks wins here tonight from Phoenix Raceway. We will take a short break, but when we come back, we will have full post-race coverage here from Arizona as we close out the round of 10 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. Don't go anywhere. We've got more right here on MaxSpeedTV.
Who wins the race? Kerwin! It is Benny Olot, the sophomore!
Tipsy the header, you catch me in something you'll never do. I turn around and I hug you. No motivation is needed. Look, I put myself on the pedestal. This is incredible. This how it feels at the top. Got no incentive to stop. And the change is and the beat and it's right back to sleep. And I use the technique that it give me energy. All the work and I'm on it, yeah. All of the team is a body, yeah. And the beat and it's right back to sleep. And I use the technique that it got me, yeah. I give it all that I got.
Wanted the best, you got him for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
wanted the best, you got them for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaw. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Back live from Phoenix Raceway after an unbelievable set of last lap events gives Brandon Banks a race win here in Season 5, the most important to get him into the Championship 5. We went over unofficial results, and welcome to our post-race coverage here on MaxSpeedTV. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacchiao to give you all of the analysis and the recaps of this race. And Francisco, before we jump into interviews, I want to say, wow, that was insane. For Kyle Benson to be that close to winning, Cody Kinsey getting hit by Lance Hill and then coming into the wall, going back down the track, giving Brandon Banks the win, and then the fight for the points. That was a playoff classic right in front of our eyes.
I think, Kenneth, the most accurate way to describe this, not for the same exact reason, but definitely for the same kind of feel. This was our 2022 Martinsville race, if you will, because of just how it was coming down to the points, the mayhem on the last lap that has somebody outside the cut line or somebody that needed to win, and then you have something crazy happen on the last lap that involves the points battle because Banks was below, he wins his way in. That forces the point situation from what it was. And my gosh, this is going to be one that these drivers and really the guys that watch the streams are going to be talking about for the next seasons or so, because this one's definitely going to live down into the memories. As you see there on your screen, these are the unofficial points after the race results have been computed. So there you see exactly how they played out. Benson, of course, was in a solid points position, had good stage points, as we mentioned, in midway through the race, and still finished in the top 5. He's solidly in on the points front. Lawson Peel, after that struggle through the middle end portion of the race, got a couple of points there to be able to keep that buffer to him and Schaefer. And it could have been a potential tie or one difference between Schaefer and Green for that last spot had Benson kept the lead. But of course, as we saw, it was not to be, and those two will be tied, but outside the cutoff. And there you see Lance Hill 19 points out, just wasn't really there, just had some bad luck. Forrester, who was not with us at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, finishes 46 out, and Bishop a whopping 94 out. But of course, we've documented his troubles and also was not at the Talladega Super Speedway last week, Kenneth. So with that being said, we officially have our 5 drivers battling for the championship 5 next week at Homestead. They'll consist of your defending champion Lawson Peel, Kyle Benson, who's there once again to try and capture that championship. Brandon Banks, for the 3rd straight year, makes the championship 5. And then, of course, your 2 winners from the last 2 weeks, Craig Lautenslager, once again returning to the championship 5, and Jaden Porter, who is going to be one of the few guys to make his first appearance of those drivers mentioned. So there you're going to see a difference of experience come next week at Homestead.
Jaden Porter is going to be the only driver making his first 4 Wide Cup Championship 5 appearance next week at Homestead. Everybody else has at least 1 or more. So Porter's going to have to face against some seasoned talent in this series when it comes down to championship racing. Now, of course, got to give a huge props to league owner Tyler Murray. He's been updating the points in the last half of tonight's race. He's given us the unofficial point standings, and we're going to reiterate that it is currently still unofficial. So we will get a official word when Tyler Murray says that points are reviewed, points are scored correctly, and then we will have our official championship 5 in terms of those last 2 that are going to point their way in. For those 3 that have already won, Porter, Lautenslager, and Banks, that is non-negotiable. They are going to Homestead no matter what. But before we go on a tangent about what's to come at Homestead and the rest of the legacy of this race in 4 Wide Cup history, let's dial up our winner, Brandon Banks, in the 54. Brandon, I have to imagine this race and this feeling of winning this race must be absolutely off the charts, not only in the way that you saved the way all the way to the end, but in the way that you got it in the drama on the last lap between Kyle Benson and Cody Kinsey. What was going through your mind there?
I had no clue what was going on. That was pretty interesting. So I knew that once we got to Kyle with the newer tires, I've just raced with Kyle so much that I knew if I was to go around him, he was gonna pit on me, and I knew, and I didn't want him to pit but so early because I wanted him to stay as long as possible, and then possibly not be able to get back to me. So at that point, I was like, I've got to do something different to try to win this race. I don't think if I'd have came in with him, I could have beat him. I maybe could have finished top 3 like I was at now, but I don't think I could have beat him, and I needed to win. So, yeah. So I mean, it was just try to keep him out as long as possible, and then hope he couldn't get back to me. And then about 30 to go, I was kind of looking at it, and he was catching me more and more, and I was like, he's gonna get here with about 5 to go, and there's not much I can do about it. So, and at that point, I was pretty much running out of gas at the start finish line with the fuel calculator. So it was I couldn't push any harder to try to stay in front of him, otherwise I was going to run out of gas. So, we were hoping for a caution, and maybe we could get on the same tire strategy with them at the end, and then maybe win something that way. But hats off to him. He should have won that race. I haven't had a chance to go back really even look and see what happened there with him I think Lance and maybe Cody or somebody they hit, or yeah, I don't even know what happened. I just kind of looked and I was like, was that Kyle? And he was, and they said I won, so I was like, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, any way you can get it in here, it's you can, you got to take it when you can.
We always seem to see you in places, Banks, where you end up in a clutch situation to get to the championship 5. I mean, it happened last season at Talladega. You're able to get yourself to the checkered flag first in an unbelievable last lap, similar to tonight, although in a very different way at the same time. And let's talk about the way you were able to pull off this strategy. Did you feel it was necessary to get into that strategy with the way that the race had panned out for you in the first half?
Yeah, I mean, track position was kind of important there. I think I had maybe a fifth place car tonight. I'm pretty good here. It just took me a little while to kind of get my handle around this car. I thought it was going to come in and be really really tight, and it just was not. It was it was sliding the nose, and you couldn't get any power down. It was way different than I thought it was going to drive. So probably should have came in and practiced a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, once we kind of had that strategy there, I was like, what, let's go get some tires and let's see if we can get through the field, and then if we can happen to go green, we're going to be close on fuel. So. That's kind of what happened. Like I said, I hate that happened to Kyle like that. That's kind of unfortunate. But I mean, he had the class of the field tonight. So sorry for that for happening to him. But yeah, we'll take him any way we can get him. I wish I could actually win one of these things and actually be fast. The Talladega races, I tend to get there, win one, leave one lap and win the race. And here just kind of got lucky on the strategy. But these guys in here are so good. You just got to take every win you could possibly get. I mean, racing with Lawson and Kyle and all them every week, they're very tough to beat. So when you can get one, you take them wherever you can.
So with this win, Brandon, you enter your third straight Championship 5 race. I mean, back in Season 3, you were there with AJ Green's first championship. You were second to him in that race. And then the finale at Texas last season, where you were second to your teammate Lawson Peel for the championship, is the third time the charm when you go to Homestead in Miami next week with a Championship 5 on the line.
Man, that'd be nice. I think Lawson's gonna be tough to beat. That's his favorite track, and he's very, very good there. So maybe I can get into some practices with him, and he'll teach me a little something, and maybe I can hang with him for a little while. But we're gonna try. Like I said, we're gonna put some extra laps in this week and see if we can. I don't know. See if we can hang with these guys. And I feel like we're always a contender. It's just I'm never really the person that's the dominant car. So see what we can do. See if Lawson could teach me something, and we'll go in there and we'll give it everything we got.
All right. Well, Brandon, you are headed to the Championship 5. We want to send our dearest congratulations on an insane playoffs put up throughout 2023, and of course what's to come at Homestead in Miami. But before we let you go, we'll give you the floor. Is there anybody you just want to thank or shout out for tonight's win?
Yeah, definitely. Paul Setup Shop. Like I said, next to your sponsor. Looking forward to that. DVR guys, all those guys are great, man. Like I said, we run with each other every week, and just a great group of guys. Like I said, and Tyler and Reedy and all these guys that put on this stuff in the background, man. They're awesome. This is one of the best leagues you can be in. Like I said, and you guys putting on the broadcast like you do, it's top notch. I mean, you can't really get much better than this. So, like I said, we'll go on to Homestead and see if we can give them hell.
Brandon Banks, the winner here tonight from Phoenix Raceway. Brandon, we'll see you in the Championship 5 1 week from tonight. We'll let you continue your celebrations. Best of luck. You're on to Homestead. Congratulations again.
All right. Thanks, Kenneth.
That's Brandon Banks, driver of the number 54, who comes home as the winner on fumes, running out of fuel at the start-finish line and beating Kyle Benson on the last lap. Francisco Bacalhau, you're caught up with second place. Craig Lownslugger, driver of the 13.
Well, Craig, it was not the win that I'm sure you were trying to race for tonight, but still a really P2 effort here tonight. Banks, I'm sure you were aware of his fuel situation. So what were you trying to do in the closing laps?
I mean, honestly, I thought he was gonna pit at some point or run out of fuel. Like, I didn't really think that. Obviously, you didn't expect Benson to get turned like that, but I was kind of just cruising to make sure Benson got the win and not like cause the caution myself because it was so out of control. But I just made too many mistakes on the last run to get Banks, and he had me by half a second, and I would have got him in like a lap with an additional lap. But Yeah, I mean, he stuck to his fuel strategy, and it worked out in the wildest way. So, I guess more entertaining the way it wound up.
Yeah, it was certainly entertaining for us in the booth, and I'm sure even some of the drivers on the racetrack when they heard it through voice chat. For you, Craig, you came out here and you had a solid run. You got through the race, and now you look forward to the Homestead Miami Speedway. You know who you're racing. What is your mindset now as far as preparation and trying to figure out what to do and who to prepare against as far as your odds for the championship now?
I mean, Banks winning, I think, changes things up a little bit. Otherwise, AJ Green would have been in there, and he's kind of somebody who races different than Banks, I think. So I know that in the race, I'm going to have to save my tires. I'm going to have to stay consistent because Banks is often one of the sort of leading drivers in consistency and figuring out how to put down good, solid laps. So that's kind of another thing I have to consider. But basically, I just need to do the work now and figure out some speed on the track, and hopefully, I can find some speed in a track I haven't had great success on in the past, and hopefully, it's not as out of control as that race was tonight, because I doubt they've like updated that setup for Homestead Miami in a while. So hopefully, we get a nice setup to run on, and it'll be a competitive dogfight. But yeah, I just got to put the work in, I think, now.
Yes, you have exactly 7 days to prepare for that event in time on July 12th. But of course, before we let you go, before we give you way to start focusing on that preparation, who do you like to give the shout out and the thanks to for helping you get to this for this P2 effort?
Yeah, just everybody comes out. Always a shout out to Murray for putting things on, and yeah, everyone's just making a great season so far. And yeah, just hoping those top 5 next week can kind of be let to battle for the entire race. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. So I'm just thankful that everyone shows up and makes this a great league.
We appreciate you taking the time with us, Craig. A good, solid P2 effort, and we wish you luck in that fight for the championship. We'll see you there at South Beach.
Thank you very much.
That's Craig Lautenslager in the 13. He was locked into the championship 5 via the win at Talladega. He comes home second tonight at Phoenix Raceway. We'll dial up the driver who's in third place. And while not a playoff driver, Curtis, you pulled off a hell of a strategy. You and Brandon Banks on the same strat, saving fuel all the way to the end, and it pays off for you in a third place finish. Just walk us through the emotions and possibly the nerves that were going through you behind the wheel in that last stint.
I mean, you could ask the guys in Discord how many times I told them, don't bring out a yellow, don't bring out a yellow. They're trying to bring it home at the end with the fuel strategy, not being sure if I was even going to have enough. It was looking a little iffy if I was going to get the full 6 or 7 laps we needed come the checkered flag there, but didn't really make the decision that that's what we were going to go for until about lap 100, I think it was. And that's when I really started backing up the corners and starting to see where and when I could clutch it. It's kind of fun just running 29 sixes the whole way through and seeing that Brandon was on that same strategy and figuring out the math part way through who's going to be catching us. I knew Benson was out to lunch and wasn't going to have a chance there, but it's interesting to see if I was going to be able to stay in front of Craig and AJ, which I managed to clinch AJ at the line running out of gas. But really just a fun race and nice we were able to run the last half of the race under green flag.
And we have to imagine you're in a very interesting scenario because you're not running for the championship. All the guys around you, especially in the context of this race, was there any sort of pressure that you were feeling, or was it just, all right, well, I'm just going to run my race no matter what drivers around me, no matter what situation they might be in, I'll run them clean, I'll run them hard, and I'll just go for the win if I can?
Oh, 100%. My first half of the race, I had a few of those moments off of 2 where I just didn't want to correct it upright into the rest of the field there. And as a non-contender, you want to still compete. You want to do your best out there, but you don't want to be in the ways of the guys having the fight all the time. And you're going to race them hard, but you're not going to do the dumb decisions you may do if you're in the playoff race yourself. Not that they're always dumb. Sometimes that's how you win the championship. You got to make a move to win. But really out there, we were running our own race in the second half when we were running the high line, just trying to clutch it around the corners and felt like I was clutching it more than I was on the gas. So wasn't in a fight with most of the people going by me, either people unlapping themselves or people I just knew were going to be faster.
Well, now Homestead Miami Speedway comes your way next, the final race of Season 5. Any expectations or presumptions about how that race is going to go for you?
For myself, not my favorite track in the world. I know somebody like Lawson Peel is going to have a great time there, so it'll be interesting to see who can put up a fight to him. A race like Homestead actually makes me really excited for next season and 4-wide, where we'll be having some rule changes that'll favor people that maybe aren't great at one track, averaging our races across a few there. Maybe I'm leaking something, not sure, but looking forward to next season as well as we wrap up the end of this season.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun as we wrap up this season. And of course, like I said, head over into Season 6, where there's a lot of stuff that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks. Curtis, on behalf of everyone that makes this possible for you in this race, who do you got to thank for it?
Firstly, got to thank you guys for putting on an amazing show like usual. It's always fun checking out the broadcast the next day. And shout out to the team, AJ, Colin, Lance. They didn't quite get the finishes they need tonight, but they put up a good fight. And congrats to the Championship 5. It's going to be an exciting fight.
All right, Curtis. Well, we certainly appreciate the time. On behalf of our broadcast team, big congratulations on the 3rd place finish, and we'll see you at Homestead 1 week from tonight.
Appreciate it.
So that is Curtis Kelly in the 71, who comes home and brings a top 3 finish to the Hot Wheels Camaro on the same strategy as Brandon Banks. Mind you, got to give a lot of credit, Francisco, to Curtis for all that he did. Now, we're going to return to the point standings. This is now official. On behalf of league owner Tyler Murray, he was reviewing the point standings, and we did have it mostly correct. Had to make some alterations, though. Now, with Jaden Porter, Craig Lautenslager, Brandon Banks, they are in still by win. So, obviously, again, non-negotiable. They're going to be in no matter what. Kyle Benson and Lawson Peel are still going to the Championship 5. So, for Kyle Benson, that is going to be, I believe, his 3rd Championship 5 in his career, or his 2nd. Lawson Peel is going to go for his 2nd straight championship. Brandon Banks in his 3rd straight Championship 5. Lautenslager in his 2nd Championship 5. And Jaden Porter in his 1st. And then the deficit from 5th to 6th. The driver first out of the playoffs in this round is AJ Green, who beat Eric Schaefer by 1 point. That was one of the things altered. They were tied last time we looked at the point standings, but now as of official ruling, it's 1 point difference between the two. Upper hand goes to AJ Green, but of course both of them are not going to go for the championship this year. Lance Hill is 20 points out, so he stays where he's at in 8th, and the same goes for Colin Forster, Christopher Bishop. They were both going to be 9th and 10th, although the points were altered slightly. Now, Francisco, we look at the 5 that's left. Jaden Porter in his first full-time season. Craig Lautenslager looking for revenge after last season's championship loss. Brandon Banks going for his 3rd straight Championship 5 appearance. Kyle Benson looking for revenge after what happened to him back in Season 2, where he was close to the title and then crashed out. And then there's Peel, the Dominator, looking for 2 in a row title-wise. What are your thoughts here as we go into Homestead?
I'm just glad we get to go home.
Yeah, we both get to go home. Actually, we get to be in hometown for a little bit, so we get to enjoy the nice weather down here.
Yes, we can take a short drive over to the Speedway when it's time to call for the race next week. But on a more serious note here, Kenneth, Homestead Miami Speedway, we know what it's about. We know the energy that the racetrack gives off. For many years on end, it hosted the championship in real life, and we've seen many leagues have the championship finale here. In the last couple of years, it's kind of gone away for most leagues, but it's starting to come back, and most people love this racetrack. There's drivers that maybe they're not great there, and you hear some of them saying they have concerns, but when it comes down to the racing there, they all enjoy driving. Such a fun racetrack to drive on, whether you're all the way at the white line on the bottom or all the way up scraping the outside wall to make some speed. You enjoy driving that racetrack. It's a unique racetrack in the way it's shaped, the banking, the way the tires wear. It is unbelievably fun to drive there. You and I both have experience in real life and, of course, in the sim, a lot of track time there. And I think these guys are in for an interesting event. We've seen Homestead run in the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series before, both with the Gen 6 and the next gen, but this is the first time it hosts the championship. So I think we're going to be in for an interesting one. You heard guys mention Lawson is going to be one to watch. You look at the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series history of winners there. They've only ran 2 races in the Cup Series there. The first one was won by myself in the Gen 6 cars. And then last season, with the next gens was won by Lawson Peels. So that's the one these drivers are looking to try and go off of. So Lawson Peels definitely, at least at the moment, looking like the favorite. But like we've seen throughout these playoffs, like we've seen every single time we approach these situations, you can't count any of them out. And a track like Homestead can give you that opportunity because it's such an X factor, because it's a driver's racetrack. All you have to do is find the right stride on that night, and you go from zero to hero and become a four-wide racing champion.
It is never over until it's over. That's what we've learned over this season.
Especially
and of course, tonight here from Phoenix. Brandon Banks is your winner. He locks into the Championship 5. We've got it all settled, and now it's all down to decide a champion at Homestead, Miami in 1 week time. Be sure to join us on July 12th, 2023. Same time, same place, 9:10 p.m. Eastern. And you'll find it right here on MaxSpeedTV. Now, we will have a pre-race show that'll be a little longer, so we might go live at around 8:30, 8:35. Keep in mind on that. And you will keep to 4Wide social media for all the updates as we bring you championship coverage from South Florida. So that does it here from Avondale, Arizona. For Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council at 4Wide Racing, and from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying thank you so much for watching our coverage of the 4Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs from Phoenix. We have a Championship 5 race to decide, and it comes down at Homestead 1 week from tonight. We'll see you there.